Good morning and welcome back to the electric spiny webs that create the strands of reality that in turn hold together the very fabric of the many verse, the many verse. I am Lunasis Mori, wolf from the family tree, but present tonight to dish out a big fat serving of Maude Flanders, specifically her season 8 journey. So let's get this bitch on ISO, and I sing now by the way. First up, season 8, episode 4, Burns, Baby Burns, written by Maude Murderer, Emax Stonegram, and directed by Maude Murderer. Jim Reardon, it's a Maude Murderer topher. Originally aired November 17, 1996. Let's fall.
Burns, Baby Burns. As the Simpsons are at some kind of museum for apples, Homer sneaks away only to be met by the founder, by the Flanders family, leaving the gift shop, all wearing big apples on their head. They are dressed casually in orange shorts, and Maude is in a delightful pink shirt and purple skirt. And shorts, maybe. She stands motionless, unblinking, as she does for almost every clip in this episode. While Ned berates Homer with apple facts. Ned says, well, if God didn't make these little green apples. Ned pulls out a season pass 00001 for the cider factory, and he says it pays for itself after the 16th visit. Ned begins to teach Homer how to tell the difference between cider and apple juice. Maude is off camera, but imagine she's continuing to stand motionless while this unfolds in front of her. Ned says, if it's clear and yellow, you got juice there, fella. If it's tangy and brown, you're in cider town. Face forward, Ned. Homer is done with all of this and his brain leaves. He slumps to the ground. Maude stands there motionless, not even blinking, as Ned continues to go on about late season apples and how the whole thing is flipped in Canada. As Homer hits the ground, Maude shows mild surprise and concern. This look fits Maude, I thought. It's quite a cool outfit. Rod, far more concerned than anybody else. He's gritting his teeth. I don't think Maude gives much of a shit about Homer at this point.
No, yeah, I agree. We'll come in roaring into season 8 here. 8 and 9 are where the most Maude content lies, I would argue. So we're coming roaring in with a fancy new outfit. I don't know why. Marge and Lisa, I don't know if you've seen them in this clip actually, but I don't know if they're wearing different clothes as well. Are they implying it's summer? This sort of looks like a spring summer. Like it's sort of too warm for a cardigan and a shirt kind of weather. We're also finding out she likes cider, which is non-alcoholic still in America, but still has that awful, awful taste.
Yeah, we're not talking Old English at this point.
No, like a refreshing beverage. I imagine Maude, upon seeing Homer there, was just like this guy again. Like, we can't go anywhere.
It's like we can't go anywhere.
And it's kind of Ned's fault because they could have seen Homer. Homer was making like a beeline for the door. They could have just let him go. But Ned, obviously being the Ned that he is, gave a cheery and friendly welcome, to which Homer responded in, this is one of my favourite Homer moments, I would say, that his brain just physically leaves his body in it, which is a funny sort of like cartoony gag. But then the fact that it does actually do something and it makes him collapse to the ground, like he's actually he's actually shut his brain
all down
successfully. Like he puts himself into some kind of coma rather than listen to Ned talk about apples.
Exactly.
Maude, yeah, she kind of vaguely leans forward a little bit, I think, when he falls, but it looks, I don't know, I think she would have more concern if somebody dropped a wind chime.
She looks over like someone's shoelace is untied and she's concerned maybe that they'll trip.
Till she realised on closer inspection they were loafers.
Exactly, slip-ons. So Maude has made a strong start to season 8 by remaining motionless. Maude is speaking with her silence, and her judgment speaks volumes.
These are things I think Roswell should be compensated for. Even Maude's non-speaking appearances should be credited to her for whatever reason.
The silence between the words, in many cases, is more important than the words themselves.
It becomes more and more apparent why Maggie Roswell asked for more money. Because, by like mid-season 8, there's that episode with the pretzels where she's basically voicing 4 of the 5 women basically throughout the episode. So, and it's not just Maude talking a bit more this season. You sort of see everybody.
She's voicing all of those characters for loose change. I imagine the money she got from that show barely covered strepsils.
Exactly. No zombie Roswell.
No.
But I like the jazzy little outfit. I like that she's out and about doing stuff. We're finding out more stuff already. She's got a hobby we didn't know about. Well, I did, but I wanted to save it for now.
What, in this clip?
Yeah, visiting a cider factory. And if Ned has a season pass that is number 1, the first one to ever be issued, I'm going to assume Maud's also got a season pass. It wouldn't be out of character, though, for her to say, no, I'm not bothered, I'll just come the once. You and the boys go all year round if you want, but I don't particularly want to do that.
You're right, that wouldn't be out of character. That's that's the way Maude thinks.
Even with like the Bongo comic that we looked at where Ned and Rod and Todd were going out doing filming, time for me to eat unsightly amounts of ice cream in secret.
I mean, she didn't say that, she implied it. She doesn't get a lot of free time, one imagines, although she should.
Which is weird.
Because all the boys are at school and Ned's at work. And we don't know what she does.
She appears, if she has a job, it's something to do with hearing aids, I'm going to throw out there. But we never see that outside of one possible instance where she may have been a volunteer anyway. So she's not busy. She's got plenty of time.
Very busy.
But she doesn't have to be busy to say, this is why I like her, even though this is implied from us. She doesn't have to be busy to say, no, I don't want to do that. She can just say, no, I don't want to do that, Ned.
Yes, it's a feeling. It doesn't need a logic to back it up.
Precisely. I will say now that season 8 is my favourite Simpsons season. So this is going to get a lot of love. I don't think there's anything in season 8 I disapprove of, but we'll find out. As of now, no. From memory, no, because it opens with the Scorpio episode.
It's great. That's great.
Which again, we're not doing a Maud's not the thing, but when they kind of show a lot of characters in town saying bye, and apparently it was to kind of sell the idea that the Simpsons were really going to be leaving Springfield for good, which obviously wasn't going to happen, but they wanted to say
for a second.
Yeah, they wanted to show some characters saying bye, so it felt like, oh, we're not going to see these characters again. Maude does not say bye to them.
I imagine she's just standing in the front room looking out of the window.
She probably has a timer counting down for when they actually left the border of town.
I imagine so. She'd be very happy. Yeah. She'd be happy they've gone. But, better the devil you know. Who might move in next door? Who would be her worst? Who would be her nightmare neighbours from the characters you know?
Mo's got to be a pretty bad one. Mo would make her feel the least safe, I think.
Most people feel least safe, doesn't he, to be honest?
There's some maybe louder characters she wouldn't like to live next door to, like perhaps Duffman, who is always kind of shouting. I think she'd be fine as long as people kept to themselves. She only judges what she sees and hears, I think. So as long as she isn't, I was thinking maybe she wouldn't want to live next to Patty and Selma because of all the smoke smell. But I think as long as they were inside, not bothering Maude. If anything, she would probably quite like that because they hate Homer. So that would probably work out quite nicely. But I think I'm going to have to vote for Mo.
Yeah, I agree with it. And I think I saw an article on CBR last week and it said, it's time the show talked about Mo. Mo has had a far more problematic relationship with Marge, the matriarch of the Simpsons family. Marge has always been polite in her refusal to even consider speaking to Mo or being involved with him. But Mo never lets up. Mo, whenever she refuses, Mo retreats inward, often insulting her under his breath and even spying on her. And I think all of that applies equally to Maude. Clip 2, Rodney Dangerfield, as Mr. Burns' son, is saying, "How about it, Pop? It's been tough, but can you love me for who I am?" Maude is behind Rodney, whatever his name is in his character in this episode, grinning with very goofy eyes. She looks kind of out of it, to be honest. She's kind of like, she got very fuzzy vision, shall we say this way. The mob is around, and it looks like she's stuck it out and stayed with the mob, unlike normally by this point she would have done one. So she must really care about something, or maybe she is all liquored up. We do get a single blink from Maude.
Nice. She, I'll throw this in now. There's a possibility that, because this is the same episode as the cider scene, but this is, she sort of bookends this episode. That's the first scene, and this is the last scene, and there's only 2 times you see her. Maybe she's been drinking real cider by accident all afternoon. Alcoholic cider. The mob, Larry Burns and Homer stage like a fake kidnapping to see if Mr. Burns cares about Larry at all. So Maude at this point thinks that Homer has kidnapped Mr. Burns' son, who is like, again, like a 45-year-old man, but they're playing it like, Mr. Burns' son has been kidnapped. So I think she's just there to see Homer get either shot by the police or get arrested. So I think that's why Maude's in it. But she seems quite happy when things work out well. So maybe she was just happy for Burns and his son, even though she shot him once.
Yes, it looks like she's enjoying the scene, but I don't discount that accidentally drinking the boozy cider for a second, because it does look like she might not really know what's going on as well.
Yes. I think there's more, isn't there, to the scene?
Clip 3, I've called it, but it's more or less the same.
I couldn't remember. There was a bit of a Burns speech in the middle, and I couldn't remember if I left it in or not. It was basically just him saying, I don't have the heart to love you.
Clip 3, he says, "I can't be the family you need. That's okay. I got a wife and kids. Oh, that reminds me, they probably wonder where I am. I told them I was going for coffee, and that was a week ago." This is Larry Burns. Maude is again right behind him, and they've done that weird thing that they did in Who Shot Mr. Burns, where you can just see her kind of outline behind his head. It's a weird animation choice again, but it's clear that Maude's still there. She hasn't run away yet. And Burns says, "Well, son, delighted to have met you. It's good to know there's another kidney for me." And Larry says, "You just got to let me run a few pints to it first," and starts drinking this green fuzzy margarita. Dozy Maude once again, blinking and smiling with no movement. She's barely moved in either of these clips. Larry shouts, "As long as everyone's here, let's party." And we cut to Chalmers and Dr. Nick celebrating. I can't see Maude in this shot. And then we zoom out to an aerial shot, and it's either Maude or Miss Hoover. I think it's Miss Hoover going for it, like this kind of dance where she's put her like fists out in front of her, and she's just kind of like pumping her fists in her body to the Journey song. "Any way you want me, that's the way you thingy."
Yeah, like MC Hammer. I agree that I think it's, at first glance, I thought it was Maude, but I think it's an off-coloured Miss Hoover. But I kind of left it in because, weirdly, Maude will be in another scene in the future with this song.
Interesting.
Which is, somebody just must have really liked it, because it's like 2 seasons later, but the same Journey song.
Journey had that renaissance after Glee, right? Did that song. Just a sweat pill.
Yeah.
And then from then on, Journey for a few years. Maybe it was the same era. Maybe it might be a little bit earlier than that. Journey. There
was a period within I'd say within 2 or 3 years, it got used by The Sopranos, Family Guy, and Glee, that song. Okay. So it kind of crept back in. I knew it before the Glee stuff, but I only knew it from Family Guy. She does seem either like how she was in her very first golf game stuff, where she's just not thinking about what's going on around her. She's just present, but mentally she's somewhere else. Yeah, sadly we don't actually get to see much of her face. We just see her. And again, that happens again. Maybe it happens with other characters and we're noticing because we're picking out Maude, but there's at least one more time where you can just see there's a character and she's just stood directly behind them. Weird trait for Maude.
I mean, it happens even in the next clip, where most of the next clip she's spent partially or completely behind other characters, even though there's only 4 characters in the shot.
Yeah.
episode 5 by Doc, written by Richard Appel, no relation, and directed by Dominic Porcino. Original air date November 24, 1996.
Bart After Dark. The Holy Rollers, not in bowling gear, but the Holy Rollers turn up at the door. That is the Reverend Timothy Lovejoy, Ned Flanders, Helen Lovejoy, and Magdalene Jehoshaphat, Rhadamanthus, something else, Flanders. Oh ho, this isn't going to be about Jesus, says Homer, because it's Homer Simpson's door that they've arrived at and knocked. Maude has assumed her defensive position, almost entirely covered by Helen. All things are about Jesus, Homer, says the Reverend. Goofy Maude, with her goofy eyes almost rolling back into her head while she's just standing there, just like zoned out, while everybody else is kind of like gunning for Homer. Except this, says the Lovejoy. Maude continues to be stationary as she has been in almost all of these clips. A non-Maude movement episode. Lovejoy continues, your son has been working in a burlesque house. Helen says, Principal Skinner saw him with his own eyes. Seymour pops up from behind the Reverend and says, that's true, but I was only there to get directions on how to get away from there. Did Maude believe him? I don't think so. Homer acts unfazed. His arms are folded, and he says, Helen, as a responsible parent, I was already aware of that. Maude is now hidden by Homer's face. She is of non-appearance to animators. Let me just write that. Let me just read that line from my notes again. She is of non-appearance to animators.
Yes, she is.
Homer says, I'm as permissive as the next parent.
Ned.
And Ned says, I'm as permissive as the next parent. Today, I let Todd buy some Red Hots with a cartoon devil on the box. But you can't possibly think it's appropriate for your 10-year-old son to work in a burlesque house. Obviously, they found it amusing just to say 10-year-old working in a burlesque house, because Homer then repeats, oh, well, if Homer Simpson wants his 10-year-old son working in a burlesque house, then Homer Simpson's son will work in a burlesque house at 10 years old.
Yeah.
The crowd disperses and we see Maude striding away. They know that trouble is coming and they can't make it any worse than the next thing that's going to happen, because Marge turns up covered in oil, unhappy, and carrying suitcases. Maude, smartly, is now striding away back home.
This, to me, feels like a setup. I'll give you, the context is Marge and Lisa have gone to save baby seals, but when they got there, they just had to clean oil off rocks, so they ended up coming home early. I think they're repeating that line. Homer's repeating that line just because obviously that's going to be the only thing that Marge hears as she's walking down the drive, is Homer yelling about his 10-year-old son working in a burlesque house, and she's only been gone for like 2 days, I think. I like that Homer says Helen, because I don't think he would have said Maude. I still think he probably has to second guess what her name is sometimes, whereas, yeah, for some reason, he remembers Helen. And again, he calls Edna Mrs. Crandall, so he's not great with names of Flanders' wives. I do like that he has the respect to call Helen by her name, but not Maude. I also like that might have been the first time that you usually will say Marge and Maude and get those mixed up, but Homer and Ned, that was a first.
Ka-ching, what would be the sound for me getting Homer and Ned mixed up?
Dough.
Oh yeah, like that's kind of a money reference anyway, isn't it, as well? So very clever.
Yes, on the nose.
On the nose, on the button, round the houses.
There is a lot of character hiding in this scene. This is Maude at her finest as well, isn't it? To be honest, this is one of those scenes that, although it doesn't look like it, you could show this scene to somebody and say, this is the epitome of Maude. She comes in, she's barely visible, she doesn't speak, she barely blinks. She's there causing moral trouble. She's there to just cram her opinion into Homer's face. Then they could have just left this. Maude doesn't care about the well-being of Bart. She's probably already written Bart off as, he's not going to succeed. So why does she care about this? I imagine she's just there because this feels like a Helen cause, and the other three have been sort of like rallied up by Helen into doing this, because Helen is, as we know, the most prominent for thinking about the children's safety out of everybody in Springfield, probably. Even though her own daughter, she binned off at a boarding school the second she became trouble. Yeah, and then she, as soon as the conflict has arisen, as soon as she's achieved the goal of, this is what I mean about it being a setup, they arrive just before Marge and get Homer to start yelling about how Bart's working in a burlesque house. And then the second they have done and Marge is there, Marge's out, like professionally out, like how you'd exit like a heist. Like they were out straight away before the trouble had even begun, really. Somebody wants rid of this burlesque house already, I think, and it's not Skinner. The fact that Skinner was hid completely behind this group, so he must have come to the door, crouched behind Reverend Lovejoy, is great.
I died in 30 days.
Exactly. Great episode. The next two Maudecasts are about this episode.
Then I think this is an inauspicious but entirely appropriate start for Maude, and I fully agree. The fact that she's in a small mob, but she leaves the mob as soon as possible. It's stirring up trouble completely unnecessarily for Homer Simpson. She is clearly instrumental in it, but manages to put herself in the background. All of the above. And they're almost being totally hidden, like a puppet master. I can imagine that even though Helen led this, I don't think it's beyond comprehension that it was Maude who was watching this happen from her window as people were coming and going and giving clues. And then she overheard from Helen something about Skinner, and she put two and two together and said, this is a Simpson thing. She riled up Helen to say, this is, we got to do this for the children. But really, she just wanted to stick it to home just one more time.
Yeah, I imagine there could be a second show, like a Game of Thrones style show or something akin to that, where there's a lot of Maude sat in a war room with Helen and Lovejoy and Ned, and they are just planning how they're gonna, because again, Maude, she's this secret weapon. No one in Springfield knows that she's in these like dark board meetings of, right, okay, Bart's doing this, I don't care about that, but this is a way to take him down.
I don't know that show.
It's good, mostly.
Seems like
80% good.
Seems like a big investment of time, like 100 hours or whatever.
If it hadn't gone the way it did, I would recommend it.
Spoiler.
Spoiler, it ended. It ended.
Spoiler.
I didn't think you could have a car crash in a time without cars, but there you go.
Yes. I didn't think that man would choke on that lollipop and that would be the end of the entire series.
Exactly.
It was all purgatory. It was all a dream.
Queen of the North.
Nonchalantly, Maude strides away with a slight grin on her face. She knows Homer is for it.
Her work is done. This would be, in Maude's book, a good day. And again, like you've just said, maybe she now goes to the window. You know, she says to Ned, like, oh, I'm going to go and lie on the bed and read some of my Bible. And then she just goes upstairs and peeks through the window and watches Marge and Homer have this kind of screaming row. Because Marge is livid about. To be honest, Homer and Bart get off relatively easily. Marge focuses all her anger on the fact that there is a burlesque house, and that becomes the focus. It very quickly stops being about Bart's well-being and becomes, this is seedy, we need to get rid of it. It doesn't belong in our town.
A very morally upstanding of Marge Simpson. Finally.
Yes.
Maude would appreciate the ideas and the direction and the vigor and the vim, but she would not appreciate the fact that Marge, she's late to the party on this.
Yeah, and she takes lead as well. But in Maude's eyes, Marge is no less of a criminal.
No less. Probably more in many ways.
Yeah, Maude's just sat up there on a pedestal watching all these peasants fight over scraps.
Interesting. So they're in the town hall, and it says outside the town hall, you got a bit of a visual gag here. Town hall meeting tonight, tomorrow. Town hall meeting bloopers. We cut to the inside, and everyone sat there watching Diamond Joe. We got angry Marge, and we've got the Holy Rollers. Maude is channeling the demon in her eyes. Her eyes seem like they're rolled back in her head again. They've done this thing recently in these shows where her pupils are like really high up in her eyes when you look at her. And it just looks like she's rolling her eyes back in her head, and she's just kind of like comatose. But who knows?
Train spotting.
Train spotting. She get a little bit of Maude spotting. Anyway, she's sitting there, hands clasped on her knees, and Marge is very, very angry. Ned and the Lovejoys, and I call them the Holy Rollers Plus. So Diamond Joe's on stage and he goes, after visiting, what does he say? Aruba for the last 2 months, I've determined that it's not feasible to build a super train between Springfield and Aruba, the Caribbean island. And interestingly, Aruba is the home of MFIMDB 56. Sadly,
Oh yeah, one of the better ones, the floating one.
it is on an external floating island, which made it much sadder and stranger that it also burned down in that mysterious toaster incident. So he has a suntan, Diamond Joe, which is unusual. You can see around his eyes when he takes his glasses off that he has a bit of a tan. But it's a subtle tan. He said, next on the agenda, everyone boos anyway. And we don't see whether Maude boos at this lack of super train, but most people seem unhappy at the lack of the super train. Diamond Joe says, next on the agenda is the Citizens Committee on Moral Hygiene. And again, everyone says, oh, they also feel bad. Even though Miss Hoover and the Van Houtens go, oh, and I would have thought they might have been on their side. So I don't get it, because that wasn't a funny joke that they said, oh, twice to two things. Right.
Luann and Miss Hoover are a bit more liberal.
Okay, so they don't like this kind of like fussing.
No.
Okie dokie. Maybe.
No.
So they stroll onto the stage. The Holy Rollers Plus stroll onto the stage, led by our very own Maude Flanders. They stand to one side because, of course, they're not allowed to speak because big bossy Marge is going to speak for them. Once again, Maude's eyes are just all over the place, like just bonkers. I don't know. I started to think that's got to be on purpose. That every time you go to Maude, her irises or pupils are all over the place.
It seems like we only noticed it in the last episode, so maybe it's just a season 8 storyline. Maybe she's still on the side.
Maybe it's still on the side. Maybe it's just a hidden storyline. Maybe they said, okay, we're going to have this happening in the background. There'll be hints, but you'll never know. So yeah. Maude doesn't get to speak, but Marge does with her, she's bossy. She's waving her arms all over the place and saying, I'm here to show my moral outrage, but this time it's not about that giant, what is it, Doesco? It's a beer bottle.
I don't know.
Maude is stood with her arms by her side, not blinking, just staring off into space as she does. And that's it. That's the clip.
Yeah, it seems like things have taken a turn from the last clip that we saw last week. Like I said, Marge isn't focusing her anger on Homer or Bart. She's directed it solely at this maison derriere and gathered the four of them up. So I said that maybe they were just doing it to cause trouble, but obviously they do want to deal with this issue as well. It says something like the moral something committee.
The Moral Hygiene Committee.
That was it. And so this is like, we've got the bowling team, we've got this, and we've got the other committee she joined. When she speak to the Bushes, Ned says something about the neighbourhood committee.
Yeah, which is probably just Ned, to be honest.
Yeah, and she's an investor. So she's busier, similar to Database maybe. The more she's settling into Springfield in our timeline, the more she's kind of coming out of a shell, especially season 8.
Yeah, I think it seems like she's not afraid to join in and be around people, but she equally likes her time, which is why she'll just disappear from that mob in a second. Today, she doesn't do that, though. She goes.
I do think
it's the opposite.
It is very much the opposite. I do think this is maybe the first time we've seen her on stage.
Yeah, could well be. She's not performing, though.
No, in terms of, like, she's spoken up before, but she's literally stood in front of the whole town. So this shyness thing is kind of going away. I almost think she's going to burst into song at any point.
Homer does later, but I don't know if she joins in.
Kind of.
That's our Maude, isn't it, really? Kind of joining in until she died.
Yeah. And then kind of joining in some more. Dead or Alive, never really noticed.
Exactly. Dead or Alive, kind of just there in the background. But that's the kind, it's the kind of Maude we like. I don't think we wouldn't want a brash Maude. We like that as a little bit of spice and flavour, but I don't think we'd be having the Maudecast if she was some flamboyant hootie tooter who dressed up in maybe a bikini and danced on tables.
That would be not somebody Maude would ever want to associate with.
Absolutely
or be
not.
In any way related to.
No way. Preposterous. Clip 2. Drinking Gambling and debauchery, it's right under our noses in a secret house of burlesque, shouts Marge, waving her arms around. We get a classic back of the heads of everyone shot, but not Maude. Maude now seems to have slipped on a red cardigan. I don't know if you noticed that. They are shocked, especially Luann. It's a Roswell fest, he says, not remembering if Roswell does the voice for Luann.
She does.
Maude looks on, and then she knows once again in this episode when it's time to stride purposefully out of the way, as she did last week. Diamond Joe steps up as Marge pulls down the screen to make a presentation, and Diamond Joe Quimby says, "People, this is an issue that we as a town are strong enough to ignore."
Because he's about to get caught out. This is a good scene when they just show everybody in town leaving the burlesque house, and all the wives like say the name of the person who's left, and then it shows Barney. So Mo just says it because nobody else has said it. I did notice Maud get changed mid-scene and then get changed back, and I have no answers other than is she a witch? Because again, it looks like her skirt's changed too.
I think what she probably did is she had a cardigan tied around her waist, and she probably took the cardigan off and put it on, so it looked like she's now wearing a cardigan and a different skirt, and then she realised, yeah, it's not really that chilly, and so she kind of tied it back round again. It's the only explanation.
It's good, but it's kind of softened by the fact that she isn't wearing a cardigan around her waist.
Well, from the angle we're seeing, maybe it's just hard to see the cardigan.
Maybe. But yeah, she does. She strides off. She has no, and yeah, you're right, she has no desire to be the main character. Marge is up there. Marge has a Simpsons ego to fill. Maud just has a purpose to serve. She doesn't need the glory.
She doesn't need the glory. She's not about that ego. She's about taking care of business. She's a TCB kind of lady.
And at this point, I don't think they generally have a plan, or I don't think Marge has let them in on the plan, because I don't think property destruction would have been high on a list of non-impulsive things to do. Like, I imagine their solution would have been to, I don't know, it would have been like some kind of legal loophole. There wouldn't have been, let's just go around and smash it up.
Yeah, going around and smashing it up seems to be a short-term kind of plan, because surely you would just get in a lot of trouble for destruction of property. I mean, obviously the police are there smashing up too, so you got a little bit of an out. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, because that is clip 4. And we're only on clip 2, so let's move on to clip 3. Diamond Joe Quimby says, all in favor of demolishing our beloved burlesque house, raise your hands. And of course, the Holy Rollers plus raise their hands. And Maudie's really going for it, like that kid in class who really knows the answer and really wants to be called on. She's really pushing that hand up high and raising her chin, and a hopeful look in her eyes that this is going to happen and democracy will save the day. And nobody else really votes for it. A few half-hearted hands raised until Marge goes, and then everyone just raises their hands. I thought, really? Is Marge Simpson really that powerful that all she needs to do is cough and everyone raises their hands?
I did also have that note of which one. I forgot whether it was just Marge who coughed or whether they all turned around and looked at the crowd. But I said, like, one of those 5 people has power, but which one? Somebody in that group is scaring the entire town into overriding what the mayor has decided to say.
Yes, and if it was all 5 of them, who do you think it was that holds the key to that? Who holds that secret power?
Well, 2 of them that we know of have access to the Yakuza. So maybe there's, like we were just saying about Derrida and Text. Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was secret storyline. Yes, it was. Maybe there's some whisperings around town that the investorettes are involved in some. Maybe people are scared to ask whether they know the Yakuza for fear of finding out the truth. Because this looks like the kind of thing, if Fat Tony would have done that and everybody put their hands up, that makes sense.
Yes.
But these 5, like, I'm surprised. Even with Marge there, I'm surprised Homer didn't just walk over and fart in Maud's face or something.
That would have been par for the course. I mean, every other time she suggested something or anything's been suggested, it's been shut down. But it feels like a convenient plot point. And it seems like even though they did vote to shut it down, like you say, the plan doesn't seem to be Who votes for us to go around there and smash it up?
And I think a lot of the town are acting out of fake remorse. They all feel some sort of shame of being caught at this burlesque house, so they need to take their anger out on the burlesque house. So I think that's how the group gets riled up. So, well, the group gets riled up easily anyway, but in this case, everybody has motivation as well.
Yeah, to be honest,
except for Maude, really.
Except for Maude, who once again is just passively there until, and we'll get to this in, I think, clip 4, the next clip, when she just does something that seems very out of character.
Yeah, there's a few people in town who I wouldn't buy doing this, but it is quite a small group when you get there, though. Like, clearly not the entire town, even though they all raise their hands. It's clear that the entire town aren't there for this destruction. It's a select group. And not a lot of, I don't know, I might be wrong, but I don't remember seeing a lot of women in the group. I feel like it's just Maude and Helen and probably Edna.
I know that when they're trying to get everyone to raise their hands, everyone behind them is like a generic character. So I don't know if we don't find out really who supports or unsupports it until further along. Shall we move on to that 4th clip?
Let's do it.
Clip 4, the town mob with Maude descends on the burlesque house. They smash through the old-fashioned New Orleans style gates into the kind of like French-ish house, you know, looking. I'm not an architect, so someone will have to tell me all the details. But there's some nice gargoyles there. Helen is leading the charge. Maude is nowhere to be seen. We know she's there from what happens next, but she's nowhere to be seen at this point. The burlesque madam comes out with the ladies and says, Helen Lovejoy says, stand aside, you degenerate two-bit proprietress. And we just see Maude in classic hiding behind someone else mode. The madam says, don't you call me that, with her arms folded. I'm an entrepreneur. At which Sideshow Mel shouts, shut up, you're wasting valuable smashing time.
I'll interject there. They don't actually break down the gates. They get there with all the pitchforks and the things, and then Ned just buzzes and says, it's an angry mob, can you let us in? And she does.
What else can you say when an angry mob buzzes?
Well, yeah, so that's why they do that. Yeah, Maude's hiding behind. She's like 4th row back. She does a lot of moving around in the next episode that or in our next episode. She just teleports. And this is the first instance of that. She's not in that mob. She's not in the mob as they come up to the gate and go in. The first time you see her in the mob now is when Helen says that proprietress line.
That's a good word, isn't it?
It is. It's a tricky word.
I think it's a play on words of something, but I don't know what it is, a play on words of.
I don't know if it's just supposed to be well-spoken. And I think she said entrepreneurs, which I'm assuming is a female entrepreneur.
Maybe. If such a thing exists, I hope so.
I think so. 2 of the dragons on the Dragon's Den are lady dragons.
Out of how many?
50.
There's 50 dragons?
No, not really. Like 5.
There's 5 dragons and 2 of them are lady dragons, which means if we extrapolate for the entire population, that 40% of dragons are women are dragon entrepreneurs. 40% of entrepreneurs, aka dragons, are female.
Exactly.
Which is 10% less than the average amount of females in any given group. But still a good show. 20% of all entrepreneurs are Duncan Ballantyne.
I agree.
Of them, they're Scottish entrepreneurs.
Scottish dragons. Anyway, yeah, that was all I had to interject with. She's going to be teleporting quite a bit.
Now, of course, we know she can't really be teleporting, so how's she getting in and out of those spaces?
She's sprinting. Just for confusion and delay.
Yeah, it's hard to know what would go through her mind that would make her just dash in and out of the scene, but that's our Maude, right? She's a mystery, she's an enigma, she's right there, front and center, loud and proud, and the next minute she's cowering and hiding behind an old man, and then the next thing she's shouting and smashing things, as happens right now. So we cut to the steps outside of the brothel, if I might call it such a thing, and Helen throws a big plant pot on the floor, and Maude, for no good reason, just starts leaping up and down maniacally, like Toad from the X-Men, leaping up and down maniacally on the plant and the plant pot. For what end? Does she think a brothel without plants will cease to function?
My theory is Helen and Maude at this point want to be a part of this, but I think they're both sensible enough to know what there's going to be repercussions to this after the moment has passed. Even if the police are there now, something is going to be done about this. So I think they know, we have to look like we're part of this because we riled everybody up. But Maude doesn't even smash anything. Helen does the smashing. So Maude's even conned Helen here. And then Maude just jumps up and down on something that was already smashed.
Yeah, it's like
in the weirdest, her legs and such a weird pose.
That's what I mean. It's a classic stomping move. And so the bad guy, the Toad from the X-Men, who was one of Magneto's buddies in the early days, he would jump like that. And this kind of frog jumping, and she's just looking pretty demonic as she jumps up and down on top of this plant. Yeah, but the trick is she's looking like she's having a whale of a time, and she's looking like she's really putting herself forward against this moral travesty. But yeah, at the end of the day, when the tickets are given out, she won't get one because it's you can't send me to jail for jumping on a plant. It's not illegal.
Exactly. So she's a mastermind. Everybody else is doing the dirty work for Maude.
Clip 5.
Yes.
Homer's on the steps of the house of ill repute, and he's singing to the Smashers. We get a classic back of the head shot of Maude as Homer starts to sing. You can close down Moe's or the Quickie Mart and nobody would care, but the heart and soul of Springfield is in our maison derriere, aka bottom house. We zoom out and we get a little back of the head and body shot of tiny little Maude, just kind of standing there, not really clear what she's making of this, because once again she's just stood absolutely still.
She's already moved as well. She was second in that row of people, and then when you zoom out, she's 5 back.
Dashing around.
It is possible that she's just recovering from all the off-screen running that she's doing when she's stood motionless.
She does seem to be pumping with sweat.
This is one of the best Simpsons songs ever, I think. And it's one of those things where I've heard it many, many times over the years, but only recently did you sort of don't hear the lines properly sometimes, and then you don't think about them. And I didn't realise how the first line is really funny. He says you could close down Moe's and the Quickie Mart and nobody would care. And Moe and Appa are in that crowd, just sort of, I don't know if you get a reaction, but it's just an obnoxious thing to say.
Will she sing? Will we hear her? Will we be able to know if her voice is there?
I will say this. Maggie Roswell sings.
Really?
But as whom?
Who does Maggie Roswell sing as? What, in this episode?
In this song.
A line is that a cutaway line where somebody does one of those oh no?
Kind of. She's one of the I think she's 2 or 3 of the dancers, because
okay.
The lady Belle, the lady, and who is Tress MacNeille, who is Doris, and the dancers do most of the singing, I think. But it's notably Roswell, and she's got a good singing voice, so it is surprising that they didn't really utilise it very often.
Yeah.
Except that one episode, which is just Maggie Roswell singing Sherry Bobbins.
Sherry Bobbins, and then just the odd Maude here and there. I Got You, Babe, Son of Sonny Bono, etc., etc. And so
the Maude jumping on that plant was probably her venting a lot of inner frustrations.
Yes, I think so. So we don't see her venting that much, right? She gets a little bit angry, but mostly she's calm. But where does she go when she really needs to scream, let it all out?
I reckon she goes to the cemetery at night.
Screams at gravestones?
Yeah, screams at cats, screams at passing cats in the middle of the night, and she pays off the gravedigger Not happy about this, but I think he's called Gravedigger Billy, and he's possibly just Irish. You can guess who he's modelled after.
Yes, sadly. All right. The dancing girls, the foxy dancing girls of the burlesque house are dancing on the steps and they sing, "We put the spice in Springfield," and we get a classic back of the head shot. And all men, except for Maude in this shot.
I think they say spring.
Did I say
that is the song. He said spice.
Is that a mistyping or is that who knows anyway? But they put both the spring and the spice in the step of Springfield, and you got Carl, Lenny, Lovejoy, but they're all men except for Maudey. A classic back of the head shot. The dancers walk over to Ned and Maude, and the madam says, "We put that extra little spice that makes existence extra nice," and Maude, mildly surprised, with wide eyes, arms by side, pointing backwards. She does these weird things where her arms are down by her side, but her hands are pointing like backwards.
I didn't notice that. Like she's ready to claw somebody.
Well, they're not like forwards like this. They're just kind of like pointing completely backwards, which is a weird way to maybe to paw somebody. Catty.
Flick them forwards.
And there's a nice band playing some Dixieland-esque a tune, and all in all, it's very nice. Maude, what does she make of this?
Tress MacNeille playing Belle is one of the better one-time characters that isn't a celebrity voice as well, I will add now. I think that was a cool character. It seems like someone they would get a celebrity in to play, but they didn't. So maybe there was somebody in line for it. Maude doesn't need a little extra spice, was my point. Maude's spicy enough from what we can gather. She has some very spicy thoughts, like stabbing Luann and things like that, deep down. So they're making a judgment that Maude needs spice in her life, but in reality, I don't think she needs any more.
I think most people there would enjoy and maybe even embrace a little extra spice, even if they were quite spicy. But I think Maude doesn't want any extra spice. She believes that the amount of spice she has is plenty. Thank you very much.
Yeah, she looks either dumbfounded or like paralyzed with rage at the accusation as well. Like she doesn't. Her face is very like her eyes are very wide. Like she looks kind of not shocked but stunned.
Absolutely stunned into silence by this approaching torrent of leg.
And speaking of extra spice, Mo is just lurking around behind her.
Do you think he's lurking, or do you think he just happens to be there?
Probably just happens to be there, but it is, you can just sort of see his face on like in the very edge of the screen. So he's always around.
The problematic Mo on the very cusp of being cancelled.
Yes, the next one to go.
At a moment too soon in my book.
She's irritated. She's not singing yet.
No, she's quietly seething at this burlesque house, at this filth on her very doorstep. Were the gin in your martini, were the clams in your linguine? The ladies walk down, and as we cut, the madam is literally walking into Maude. She must be centimeters from Maude's face when we cut, and suddenly she's nowhere near her, which means that maybe Maude, she just stumbled backwards so quickly that she's now 3 rows back. Everyone's intimidated. They just cut back, and they just step back as the madam, the burlesque madam and her foxy ladies stride through the middle of that crowd like a parted ocean and flick Bumblebee Man's antenna just as part of their song. And Maude out once again, arms by side, and I just wrote terrified ?
She's a teleporter again. This is what I was saying last week. Happens with Carl as well, because her and Carl are stood right at the front and then instantly are 4 rows back when she walks through. So I hope somebody got fired for that blunder. I don't think Maude drinks martini or eats linguine, so I don't think this line has any effect on her. I don't think those are 2 things that she's interested in.
I don't know. You know, I've heard those terms used as euphemisms.
I don't think Maude doesn't deal with euphemisms.
It's very straight-laced. You either say it straight out or you don't say it at all, mister. Don't be coming with your double entendres.
Single only. I wrote that it was a cool back of Maude stance. I liked the design for whatever reason.
What was that reason?
Whatever reason.
What was it, though?
I think she was like lurching forward a little bit.
Slight lurch. She does the slight lurch, right? We've talked about this before. So she's standing up straight, but she's not quite straight. From the waist, she's kind of bent, bent forward. Arms by her side, hands facing backwards, leaning forward at an angle of maybe 20 degrees, and then eyes like semi-rolled back in her head with a goofy face. That's how Maude. That's how I'll remember her when she's dead.
When she's gone. It's like she's practicing like stretches or yoga. It's like mid-scene.
Maybe. There's always time for Pilates.
I also noted that Ned is miles away from her, but he is stood directly next to Edna, who would later become the extra spice that Ned needed to make existence extra nice.
And at that point, he didn't even know who she was, yet he stood right next to her in this song.
Yeah, but he doesn't know anything about her.
Now, that's something heads need to roll for.
That's going to have its moment in the sun.
What do you
in
make
about
of this
4
Bumblebee?
years.
What do you think of this abuse of Bumblebee, man?
I thought it was more playful than abuse. I thought it was more tongue-in-cheek than anything. I don't think he minded. I imagine the Bumblebee man was a patron. We don't know a lot about him. We certainly don't know a lot about his wife, Senora Bumblebee, who will have her day in the sun too.
I'm hoping that very soon the Senorita Bumblebee cast will make its presence known very, very soon. From our cousins. So, clip 3, Dancing Ladies were the highest in your hairdo. I don't think that's right. I've written that down. But
highlights.
Oh, the highlights in your hairdo. They approached the conservatively dressed Helen and Maude, and this is Maude's oh my moment. So she raises her hand up to her chest, kind of like, oh my. And but is it fright or is it intrigue at these ladies? But still no movement, no motion, no blinking, but she does now look extra concerned. I think this is several episodes of our show that since Maude spoke or moved. Is that right? Or have I...
Yeah, no, she hasn't spoken for us. I can't even remember what the episode was. It was like the end of season 7. Because the last Maude we looked at was like just like the pictures on the wall and stuff at the end of season 7. See, I don't think Maude spoke for a good like 4 or 5 podcasts now, excluding the casts and the break.
So here is the so I'm interested whether she's intrigued by these ladies or frightened or angry. She doesn't give too much away. Then Apu turns up and says it's the extra arms on Vishnu, and Maude smiles at this. Even his heathen religion is better than this sauciness from these ladies, or is it? I can't make head nor tail of what's going on here in Maude's POV.
No, me neither. From the timeless Apu gag that will never sour. That first shot when the women approach Maude and Helen, most of those women in that shot are Maggie Roswell. Like 70% of those women are Maggie Roswell.
I hope she didn't get a single extra red cent for all that extra work she did.
No. I thought Maude's hand gesture was to say, like, who me? Because I don't think Maude or Helen have highlights in the hair, from what we can tell. So she's sort of thinking, is this apply to me? Does this, like, me as well? So then I think she's kind of smiling because she's been actively included.
Now that would definitely shine her buttons, wouldn't it? A line in your song about me, just everyday average Maude, and you foxy sexy ladies are all singing about me. So is she smiling at that, or is she smiling at Apu's little statue of Vishnu with all his extra arms?
Maybe she's sort of smiling in mockery because she doesn't believe that to be real, because she knows Jesus has 2 arms. But I do think that this is more likely to be the turning point of the song for her. For whatever reason, those 2 lines work for her, and she thinks, yeah, this is an essential thing that Springfield needs, because she's on board after this.
Oh, yeah. It's a very well constructed song in which each line is designed to get to the very soul of a particular character or a group of characters and thus turn them. It's very manipulative, Machiavellian even, for an improvised Dixieland song.
Yeah. And it's strange that they went, if that was the goal, writing-wise, it doesn't seem like they knew they were going to have that line sang to Maude and Helen, because if they did, wouldn't it be more of a, like, with a ribbon in your Bible sort of line or something like that? Like, I don't know why it would be about the her.
Were the ribbon in your Bible, were the slithers in your trifle? Slithers
Exactly.
is the 80s horror movie.
Oh, yeah. Whalen slithers.
Into the trifle. but that wouldn't make them turn. If anything, that would make them real. Oh, I don't like that metaphor or literal sentence. So no, I think even though highlights, maybe Maude thought, or highlights as in the best parts, maybe she misunderstood and she didn't think, she said, oh, of course they know I don't actually have like highlights. I don't dye my hair. This is natural. Is it natural? Is Maude's hair 100% natural?
I think so. But this is the thing, actually. Sometimes it is quite a dark red, particularly later on, like season 10, 11. Her hair is like more of a rod-coloured hair, whereas Todd is more orange, I would say. Maybe the orange is a highlight and Maude's hair is more red than orange. And when we see her with the orange hair, that is highlights. That is an option. We've seen her at the salon getting something done.
This is a rich seam of speculation, and I wish there were more clues. I'm going to keep my eyes open for any more hair highlight related clues. But let's move on. So yes, let's be the, and then Mo crashes some bin lids together, and then they sing something else which I haven't written down, and then Bart has joined them, a face forward Bart and a face forward Homer. Maude's all into it now. Her arms are raised, and really she's been converted. And then Ned appearing at the window of the burlesque house. I think it's all gone off the rails. We're in parallel universe here for sure.
I don't remember Ned, but that's an interesting point. I've written that she doesn't actually move around that much. I thought she teleported way more in this song, but everywhere she stood, other than that first time when she teleports with Carl, everywhere she stood sort of makes sense, actually. So she isn't as much of a witch as I thought. Maybe it's just the mob mentality getting to her, because everybody seems to have turned at this point and is on board and is singing along. So maybe she's just, again, that's what she does with a mob. She does whatever they're doing most prominently, unless it's clapping.
I mean, that's good mob etiquette. If you're going to join a mob, there's no room for individuality in a mob. It's basically baked into the concept. There's no point turning up in a clown outfit and, doing backflips through the mob. If you're going to be there, get a bloody placard and join in.
She's now seemingly removed her cardigan, which I said was a parallel, a thematic parallel. Here's something that's definitely a stretch, even for us. Last week, when she was on stage with everybody, she donned a cardigan, and maybe that was to express her buttoned-up conservativeness. And now that she's on board, the cardigan has been removed again.
I think that's a really plausible answer, to be honest, for the cardigan. The cardigan is clearly symbolic. Maude, we did say earlier that Maude, everything's face value with Maude, but that's for when she's listening. But Maude herself, she's very open to symbolic interpretation. She gives messages with every facet of her being.
Yeah, she can't help it.
Can't help it.
She just exudes content, thematic content.
So not a stretch at all. In fact, what's the opposite of a stretch? A squeeze up.
A squeeze.
So that was a very good squeeze that you brought there to the table.
Thanks.
What's going on with Mo banging those bin lids together?
Everybody makes a noise. Well, not everybody. Some of the characters make noises to replace the word spring towards the end of the song. So it's like we put the in Springfield.
Is that noise that Mo makes as good as the baby ox noise that he makes in the shelter?
No, not at all. That the subtitles for that refer to it as guttural braying.
I think that's an apt description.
It is. It's his best face as well.
Cut to the Holy Rollers, and Ned starts talking. Well, I'm convinced this house stays. Lovejoy. This house is a very, very, very fine house. Crosby, Stills, and Nash reference. Maude,
Yeah.
hands
Blur.
clasped in front of her country house. Oh yeah, lots of houses, all around the houses. Clasped in front of her calm smile. Maude looks zonked, or is she just looking up? Mel, Otto, and the Van Houtens all tried to stop Maude.
Very
I may have
seamless.
these notes may need some editing. So essentially, Marge comes in and she smashes on a bulldozer through the gates of the burlesque house, and all Mel and Otto, Sideshow Mel and Otto and the Van Houtens try to stop her, and Homer shouting, "What are you doing, Marge?" Maude, she just kind of stands there. She doesn't try to stop it. And she's just in the distance kind of looking at it. And Homer says, "Marge, didn't you hear the song?" "No, I had to rent the bulldozer." "Well, we all changed our minds." And Wiggum shouts, "Now we all love the house." Maude just stood there in the middle distance, looking on, arms by side, motionless, and then quickly nestles in behind Wiggum so we can't see her. Again, a callback to the earlier part of the episode.
She's always nestled behind something. Dare I say she looks frumpy at the start of this clip.
They're nice.
She doesn't. Yes, she doesn't. She doesn't have a normal shape. She looks sort of like they've aged her by like 30, 40 years with her like posture and her stance, and like, I don't know, clothes look baggy and sort of just older. So yeah, I noted that, but it is somewhat disrespectful. And Maude can be as frumpy as she likes, and it won't change anything.
Well, I was thinking maybe this represents her looseness came out, and it was only that moral uptightness that was keeping everything in check. And as soon as she just let out when she went over to the dark side with this mob, she just let it all out, and that's the real Maude. She's frumpy. She's kind of like she's got bad posture. Maybe it was only her uptightness that made Maude Maude, and now Maude's not Maude anymore.
There's still the option that she's on the cider, and that's just a bit of a cider belly. But it's weird that maybe she's just been sucking it in the entire time, and now she's like, they say she's loosened up, so she's letting the beer belly hang out. Maybe.
Clip 6, Marge is singing.
I have several more things to say.
You're still banging on about clip 5? It is a rich clip.
We barely talked about it.
All right.
She doesn't really try and stop Marge at all. She just she doesn't even wave her arms like everybody else. She just I don't know, it's like if somebody dropped something and like 5 people went to pick it up, and one of those people clearly just like waddled forward a bit and watched the other 4 pick it up and kind of just moved their hands as if they were going to maybe try, but had no intention of doing. Reminded me of something like that. She has no intention of helping, but she wants people to think she's at least tried.
She hangs back until everybody's clearly already started, and then she kind of like, can I just help here?
Plain dumb. And I wrote that she's slick like a fox because she's, again, orchestrated this. Her, Helen, Tim, Ned, and Seymour are the reason that Marge knows about this situation. They are the reason Skinner's out of this now, but Maude, riled the mob up at the meeting. She then participated in the damage of property and, but coerced Helen into actually doing the smashing and everybody else into actually doing the smashing. She didn't do anything. And now that Marge looks like she's going to F the day up, Maude's like 9 rows back. She's moved as far back as she possibly can.
Not my business. Not my problem, mate.
So she's a bit of a stirrer. She's a bit of maybe a conflict stirrer.
Do you think had the burlesque house survived, Maude would have begun to frequent it?
No, but I think she wouldn't have. She would have just paid it no mind. Maybe one day she would have just come back to it and changed her mind again and demolished it then.
Well, it wouldn't have been that hard because as we see in the next clip, it looks like it was made out of exceptionally flimsy material.
Seems that way.
Shall we move on?
Yes.
Margie's singing now about morals and ethics and carnival barons. I don't know what that means. That's not the right line. She lets the bulldozer go, which smashes and destroys the house very, very, very easily. Marge says sorry. We see a face-forward Maude with her eyes rolled back in her head, arms by her side, no expression. Lovejoy says, thanks a lot, Marge. That was our only burlesque house. And then the madam goes up to Marge and says, I do love it when you drop by, Marge. Maude seems to be the only one who's not really very angry. Kirk Van Houten seems to be smiling, but all the others seem to be upset. Maude, face-forward Maude, she gives nothing away.
Maybe, just maybe, Maude was smiling and Kirk somehow borrowed that feeling. That is always
like in the song that he sings.
Just like that. I like Margie's really weak song. I like that she comes in, there's not even like music to it or anything. It's just all one note. And she says, moral and ethics and carnal forbearance.
Carnal forbearance. That's
Yeah.
a good line. What does that even mean?
I think it just means like chastity.
Forbearance.
Never Googled it.
That's a great word. If you're a listener out there and you know that what the word forbearance means, then you can pat yourself on the back, because we don't.
No, neither
Forbearance
of us.
is patient self-control. So I think you're right, yes. Abstinence, etc., etc.
You'd think she would like that song, but again, she's on board now with the house, so Marge. And any excuse to just sort of dislike Marge, I think she'll take. But yeah, after the whole smashing thing has happened, when she's face forwards, she just looks tired or like unfazed by the outcome. And I just wrote cider ? Are we back to the general? I seem to always come back to this one. It's probably because it was our first content, but the golf game, when that sort of look of middle distance, really deeply just thinking about herself, not what's going on around her. That seems to have continued on successfully since the golf game. She has phases, doesn't she? And it seems like she's back in the phase of self-analysis in the midst of everything that's going on. Maybe she's thinking about her own judgments that she made.
Maybe. Do you think that this is like a critical self-analysis, or do you think it's just self-congratulation? Do you think it's judgment of others? Do you think it's some abstract mindscape? What's going on in there?
If I'm 100% honest, I do think that she's just pissed. I think that that's the start of the season 8 storyline, is that she's on this cider now, and at some point she will see the light and try and force prohibition into the town.
So she's got a hankering for Mike's hard cider or some old English, and this is a hidden thing. Now, originally I would have said, don't be so ridiculous, Nathan. But after the Hans Moleman episode that our cousins did, which suggested that he was a heavy drinker and we saw no signs whatsoever, you know, it's absolutely possible that every now and again, because remember, we don't see Maude that often here. We're going to assume there's a few weeks between these major incidents, and she's only here and there. So who knows? Maybe it's just the timing that she has a little bit of Dutch courage before she goes out and does this nonsense, or maybe she sloshed all the time on cider now.
I think it's a recent thing. I think it's come since the trip to the cider factory, and I think it won't. It's a passing phase, but I think that's the phase we're currently in, because, yeah, the last 3 Maudecasts, her eyes have been everywhere, and she's just been sort of stood either motionless or like she would be swaying slightly.
There's a lot to suggest that she's not really with it, paying attention. And she is just got that kind of like mild look of being out of it.
She does. So I think that's what's going on.
Or interacting with any other humans.
Yeah, she's checked out of the scene mentally.
She's checked out of existence completely for a month or two.
Yeah.
Nobody noticed? Not even Ned?
Even the ladies who were singing about her have moved on. She's just another pawn in the machine now.
In the machine.
the chess machine. Yeah, that's it. It's a great. I was looking forward to this one because I wondered how we were going to tackle a song rather than 5 or 6 different scenes, and it worked out quite nicely.
Yeah, I think we did a great job.
We put the Maude in Maudecast.
Yeah, we put the cast in it as well. And Pod,
Yeah.
we put the Pod in Maudecast.
Stamp. Good arc. She saw the error of her ways, it seems, or at the very least followed the mob when they saw the error of their ways.
Ah.
Coming up next is season 8, episode 6, the absolute classic banger that is a Millhouse Dividing, written by Steve Tompkins, where he is directed by Stephen Dean Moore. It's Dignity, Stephen Dean Moore. Should I show the cat and have the cat tell you what it is? 'Cause the cat's gonna know. Original air date, December 1, 1996.
Dinner party at the Simpsons house. We've got the Hibbets, the Flanders, Maude wearing this saucy kind of purple high-necked dress style thing. The Van Houtens are there, the Lovejoys are there. We get a classic side of the Maude shot. Maude now in a red top and dark maroon skirt. There's lots of chatter. And Marge says, did anyone see that Woodsy Allen movie? Cut to Ned, Maude and Helen. Maude looking very cutesy, doing little chews with her mouth. And just wearing some kind of vampirella kind of get up now. Again, just switched back to the purple dress in the blink of an eye. I really don't know what's going on there. Ned says, I like all his films except for that nervous fella. On the plate, looks like there's lasagna and some grey and brown slop. I'm going to stop there because there's much more.
This is one of the best episodes ever. It's in my top 5. It's just, I would say, funny from start to finish, and there's a nice story. And it's a Roswell-centric episode, so it ticks every box for Nathan. Another costume change, which is what I said. We haven't really got a way around this. All she did last week was rip off a cardigan. This week she has entirely changed what she's wearing twice. Don't know how she's doing it. Don't know why, because nobody else does. And purple is royalty is the other note about what she's wearing. Is she making a point here? Is she trying to look regal in front of these people?
Royalty.
She also seems not that interested in what Ned's saying, and she stops mid-chew. Like she almost can't believe what Ned's just said. Like disbelief, like, are you serious? Come on, that's Woody Allen, right?
But also, like, she wouldn't be a fan of Woody Allen's movies, right? They're all kind of like, people having affairs and being sarcastic and rude and basically everything that Maude's not. Yeah,
she's not a Woody Allen fan. Even before the whole daughter marriage, I don't think she was a Woody Allen fan.
Got worse than that. I don't even follow the Woody Allen news for the last decade, but kind of got worse than that.
Yes, he...
Anyhow, moving once again from the darkness that seems to be just attracting us at every turn today. There's no explanation. Does magic exist in the Simpsons universe?
At this point, no, I would say, but the later we get, the more it does. Maybe this whole thing is like a Maude's WandaVision set up, and she's the Catherine Hahn of it all.
She's the Agatha Harkness of this whole thing. It would be a very long, drawn-out way to do such a thing, and with far less clarity than the rather excellent WandaVision series.
However, she is wearing purple.
Not scarlet, though. But yeah, Harkness wears purple in the movie, right? Spoilers if you've not seen it.
But it was excellent.
It was excellent, great. Luann says, if you want to talk nervous, you should have seen Kirk deal with the high school boys who egged our Bonneville, some kind of car. Millhouse, who is basically Woody Allen. Millhouse is not there. I don't know why I wrote that. Kirk also has a kind of Woody Allen look, but he's the dad. And Luann is smiling at her own wit of bringing down Kirk, because it could have been played where he was kind of the real bad guy, and he does come off worse, but she's by no means innocent in this whole back and forth.
No, you can see just from this short exchange that they're exhausted with each other. There's a couple of things around this time where you can see they started either wanting to or subconsciously making permanent changes, like Lisa becoming a vegetarian. This now, Kirk and Luann splitting up is the biggest change at this point on the show. So they're talking about, and then obviously Maude dies, so I think they wanted to kill off the character permanently. Like, it seems like they want to make some statements about things, you know, maybe things will change. I believe they wanted to have a couple split up, and they settled on Kirk and Luann naturally out of the couples that were available, basically. They made the most sense. It's a Millhouse sort of story as well because of this, and it wouldn't have been a particularly riveting episode if it was Jessica Lovejoy or the Hibbert's unnamed children that were sort of going through it. So,
What about Rod and Todd? What if they'd flipped it and somehow Ned and Maude had gone through this? We know they already went through counselling, but that was a bit of a fake, wasn't it? But what if this had been the curveball that they would have split up?
that would have been shocking, but I think Rod and Todd are very good at just getting on with things because God has a plan. Again, we'll come back to that as one of the reasons they actually chose to kill Maude later in the day. In about a year and a half, we'll come back to that point.
That it was all fate?
Or that they're the best kids to put trauma on because of the faith in God.
Yeah, so they keep putting them through the ringer, don't they? So Kirk shouts, "We should have asked them to hurl some bacon as well as the eggs. I could have had a decent breakfast for once." The Hibberts realize that this has turned very sour, and Dr. Hibbert just looks down and kind of grumbles. And then we get a very Thatcher-esque Maude, who is eating some form of lasagna / tiramisu. And she kind of looks away. We get a really good shot of Maude, actually, looking a lot like Thatcher, and turns her head away, puts her head down, and there's crickets. And the Van Houtens glare at each other.
Yeah, fantastic. She looks really sad. The most sad we've probably ever seen her at anything. And I think it's just because I don't think she likes Luann, but she isn't invested in Kirk and Luann. I just don't think she likes conflict because she prefers to do things sneakily, whereas this is just the being passive aggressive, but there's obviously aggression there.
It's not very hidden, that it's not that passive.
The things they're saying, though, are very, they're not direct insults.
No, it's super passive aggressive. It's super it's very funny. I mean, do we see much more of this after this episode? Do we see much more of this acerbic Kirk in future episodes?
Yeah, this is, from this point on, Kirk definitely jumps up a band after this episode.
The Van Houtens glare at each other, and Homer shouts, "You know what you guys need? A little comic strip called Love Is. It's about two naked 8-year-olds who are married." I wrote, WTF. What? I do know the comic strip is very funny, but for Homer to bring it up and frame it in that way is, well, obviously it's silly, and that's why this comedy show decided to do it.
Why is he pushing it? Like, it is a very weird moment. Like, what is it that he thinks this will help? Or is he promoting it? Like, why does he think this comic is exactly what they need? It just goes to show that Homer is, again, this episode is just about Homer and Marge, deep down. So I think it's just setting up how naive and unaware of problems Homer is. But yeah, very strange thing to say. And Maude's look, well, everybody's look reflects that.
So I took a screenshot of Maude's look at this because she's got kind of like a baby bird face. Do you know what Raj went out with that woman on The Big Bang Theory? Do you know that one?
Don't think so.
Got a little baby bird kind of face going on, and this is what I see here in Maude. It's kind of very pinched, little tiny face, and her eyes doesn't have the blue eyeshadow, so it's just these kind of big white, what's that white part called in your eyes?
Eyeball?
The bit round your eyeball. This bit here, the white bit that's not my iris. Oh no, your eyeball's the whole thing, right? Does it have a name for the white?
I don't know. No. It's never been named.
Is it just called the whites of your eyes, like the whites of the egg?
Yeah. Yolk.
That's what Michael Caine says. Don't shoot till you see the whites of their eyes.
Exactly.
We zoom out, we see Maude's face, the baby bird lass from Big Bang Theory, now wearing the full-length purple dress. I ask, when did she get changed? Drinking tea delightfully, and Kirk is smoking, which wouldn't fly in 2021, I'm sure.
Yeah, I made all of those points as well. I thought it was a cigar possibly like an end of meal celebration, but it's weird. Out of those people, I would place Hibbert with a cigar the most, not Kirk. But Hibbert's probably more polite. Kirk, at this point, clearly has self-awareness issues. My last note about this clip, three more notes.
Yeah.
She's got giant pupils when she's got that bird face.
Yes.
Like, really big pupils. Ned is the only one showing any affection in this scene. He's got his arm draped over the back of Maude's chair. Nobody else is doing anything like that. And is it tea or coffee they are drinking? Because I'd imagine coffee would be an after meal thing, but it does look like tea. Looks like they've got a teapot.
I think so.
And I think they probably, I don't know, if tea's a bit fancier to Americans, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe it was tea.
I think Maude and Ned are the most loving in this whole little bottle episode scene.
Definitely.
Give me a moment.
Yes.
Ned gets a card and they're playing Pictionary, and Ned says, "Oh, that's a noodle scratcher." We get a side of the Maude view, very ducky, possibly with no nose. My dog's got no nose. My Maude's got no nose. How does she smell? Delightful.
Exactly.
So Ned draws 5 dots on the Pictionary board, and immediately Maude shouts cornstarch, and she's got her arms stretched out and she points at Neddy, and she stands up, gives him a peck on the cheek, and puts her hands on him, lays both hands on him. Very, very affectionate in this episode. And Ned smiles and says, "Good for keeping the urges down." And yeah.
They giggle. Cutest clip to date, ? Is my first. I think this is the sweetest we've ever seen them. Outside of the first time we ever saw them when she comes down with the sandwiches and they're a little bit like cutie. Both times, though, are a reminder, or just sort of, it's there as an example that they are a good couple to reflect badly on a different couple. First time it was Homer and Marge, and then this time it's obviously to parallel Kirk and Luann, because Ned and Maude are just working in tandem here completely. This is them at their most solid. I think after seeing Kirk and Luann this evening arguing, she's probably like appreciating Ned more or feeling more grateful for what she's got.
I think it's one of those things, she's doubling down. She knows that bad stuff is happening there, and she just wants to doubly support Ned. But to be honest, that's almost mind reading to get cornstarch from 5 dots. You know, Maude is displaying some seriously magical abilities here. We've seen her move things with her mind, change her clothes, and read minds.
I would speculate that they play this game a lot. So this is sort of like when that couple went on Millionaire and coughed. Like, they've both done this before, and they're, again, probably just showing off. Like, look how like in tandem we are. If Milhouse had been fostered and baptised, I think he would have settled in a lot better at the Flanders house than Rod and Todd. Than Bart and Lisa. Ka-ching.
Jinx.
Yes. Yeah, that was pretty much it for that clip, other than when he says keeping down the urges, they both seem to chuckle. So is this like an inside joke or something, or are they actually being real?
I don't even know where they're coming from. Cornstarch to keep down the urges. It's just like, I'm not sure what that would be.
I don't even know what cornstarch is, to be honest.
Isn't the non-Newtonian stuff? So the cornstarch one, when you make a mixture of cornstarch and a bit of water, it's the one that turns into, like, if you press it, it's like a solid. Like if you touch it lightly, it's like a solid, but you can push into it and it becomes almost like a liquid.
I see.
And they call it non-Newtonian because its viscosity depends on how much force you apply to it.
Exactly.
Such as quicksand, silly putty, and ketchup are all other examples of non-Newtonian fluids.
Excellent. Good trivia.
Oh, that's not trivia. That's scientific fact. I don't know what it is, shouts Luann as Kirk is attempting to draw dignity. And we see Maude clasping her hands, looking very concerned as Luann shouts, "I don't know what it is." And Kirk, losing it, grabs the pad and storms over to her and shouts, "It could not be more simple, Luann." At this point, Maude is sitting on, I think, the piano kind of bench thing with Ned, and she's still looking at them with sad eyes and hands clasped, but she hasn't completely moved herself away yet.
I've noted that it is Ned and Maude. It makes sense that Ned and Maude were relegated to like the backup furniture out of everybody. They would be the ones to say like, "Oh, we'll sit on this." you all take the comfortable stuff.
I insist.
She looks in genuine shock or like fearful that it's all going to kick off. And Ned's like clasping her wrist. But it seems like, I'm assuming it's for comfort, but it does look like he's doing it in like, don't you get involved. You're like stopping her from jumping up and doing something. But I don't think that is the case.
I didn't get that vibe. I got more of like he was almost like shielding her from this madness. As he gets further on, at this point, he's basically just reaching over, touching her hand, and then he moves back again. But as it gets further on, we see Maude, just the slight little actions that tell so much about how she's feeling.
Yes.
Oh.
But before Clipball, let's just celebrate that Maude had a line this week.
She had a line, she moved, and
Yeah.
that's probably the first time in several episodes that we've seen Maude do, even in some episodes she doesn't even blink. She's literally just stationary.
This is the 4th episode of season 4 of our podcast, and this is the first line she's had. And she doesn't have another line now for a bit.
She doesn't need to speak. Her actions and her lack of actions speak volumes. Kirk shouts, "Okay, genius, why don't you draw dignity?" And Luann is very angered. And in basically 3 strokes of the pen, she draws something. And Maude is sitting there very despondently with sad eyes, like a sad-eyed lady. And she slightly raises her head to Luann, like, go on, do it. Is it support? Is it just like, let's get this over with? I don't know. And yeah, everyone agrees that Luann has clearly drawn dignity. And Hibbert says that's worthy of Webster's. We don't see Maude's reaction, and we don't, unfortunately, see Luann's picture. Although I've seen this thing going around, I think on Instagram and stuff, that it is a picture that looks like it's something to do with Kirk. It's something to do with Milhouse or Kirk Van Houten. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like
the circle.
Yeah, it's like a circle, right?
I think that is Kirk's drawing of dignity.
Oh,
it's something relevant to this Pictionary game, but I don't know why. I can't remember because I've seen this.
Drawing of dignity. We just don't see it in
this, yeah.
This, but yeah, it's basically like a hourglass shape with like a triangle cut into it, like lines scribbled across the bottom, and that was a bit. That's the funniest part for me, where he is drawn this dignity, this abstract dignity, but we don't see it. We don't see Leanne. We see that. We don't see Luann's version of dignity.
We also missed my favourite line from Kirk, which is when after he says it could not be more simple, Luann, he says, "Do you want me to show it to the cat and let the cat tell you what it is, because the cat's going to get it."
So much goodness there from Kirk and co.
Yeah. I can hear Maude saying "that's great" when they're all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like actually hear her. When they're before Hibbert says "worthy of Webster's," you can hear it's Roswell, but it's Roswell as Maude. You can tell that it's Roswell as Maude saying "that's great." So that was a nice treat.
Yeah,
but you don't get to see her response. Again, I've written that she looks regal in her posture, which fits with the colouring again, the purple. And she looks at Luann with sorrow and empathy, and I presume that she likes Luann.
Yeah, do we see much of that? Do we get much more interaction between the two of them?
Not directly, but subtext for season 8 will allow it, because they're in the same group and stuff. They spend time together.
Is she an investorette?
Yeah, Luann's an investorette, and from what I can remember, Luann is the only investorette to go to Maude's funeral. So yeah, we'll come back to Luann.
Kirk goes on to start shouting about how he carries a change purse. We get a 3/4 back of the Maude shot, stunned into a usual position of silence, and more crickets, and then he shouts, "Yeah, purse." And then Homer shouts, "Shut up and let the woman talk," which is funny, but I don't know why it's funny.
I've listened to the commentary for this recently as well, because there's nothing else to do. And it's definitely one of Homer's finest episodes, because they've said when you can have Homer not be the main character in a scene and you can sit back and just comment on things, it is very funny. Just having him shout Homer things. He does a couple of things, like he keeps interrupting them to tell them to carry on. Like this, "Shut up and let the woman talk," and then he says something about the dignity picture as well. And then obviously at the end, we'll come back to another great Homer line shortly. Maude is still regal looking, and this is sort of semi-related, but not. But there's a few great things in this scene where they come up with fake names for stuff. Like Luann says, "I'm not as smart as you, Kirk. We didn't all go to Goodyear College." And then she names like 3 biscuit companies. They mention like 3 fake cracker companies, but they've all got really bland names, like Allied Biscuit.
Right.
I just like those sort of like fake names that sound real.
Yeah, Marge, ka-ching, Marge is pouring some biscuits away. I didn't get the relevance of that, but
Yeah, Kirk works at a cracker factory, and it turns out he sent them into a tie for like 3rd with Table Time and Allied Biscuit. Oh, that was it. Sorry. Homer also, Luann says, "Serve a simple man who took over his father's cracker factory," and Homer just shouts, "Boring." And then Luann says, "A man whose lack of something and managerial impotence." And then Homer shouts, "Oh, here we go." He's just throughout the scene, he's fantastic.
he's just peppering it with Homerisms. So good work.
That's it for that clip.
You want to hear a secret? Shouts Kirk. Luann loves it when I fail. Maude now has physically turned herself away on the piano seat, and Ned has his hands on her shoulders. And Luann comes back with, "I love having to borrow money from my sister, and I love stealing clothes from the church donation box." Lovejoy puts his head in his hands. Marge is on full-on grumble, not knowing what to do more, and she pulls Lisa out. "Why don't you come and sing for us?" Ned is basically shielding Maude with his arms, and she has turned 180 degrees away. I'm not sure what people thought of that. What does that say about Maude? Everybody else just continued sitting there, but she physically moved her entire body away. She didn't get up and walk away. Marge calls out Lisa to sing. "Lisa, why don't you come out and sing?" She sings, "Oh, something grand old, something, something." And Kirk says, "Oh, you got the kids singing now. Are you happy?" And Luann says, "I haven't been happy for a long time." Arms folded. "I want a divorce." And Kirk is stunned. He says, "A divorce?" Maude still fully turned away and basically trying to turn her head and body away. "A divorce? Hey, you got it, Toots," shouts Kirk. He's clearly not happy about this, but here's a picture even you can work out. It's a door and you can use it. And Homer shouts, "That's the door?" Maude does not find any of this funny.
No. Yeah, I said that she turned her back in shame, like she's ashamed of what's happening. It explains why Ron and Todd are a little bit frightened of everything as well, because this is like Ned is very instantly just protective. He's not, which is nice, but she needs to grow up a little bit. If she can't handle this, then she's not prepared for the world. If she can't handle this, how's she going to handle a barrage of t-shirts? And is she just sad? Is she sad for Luann in general, or just because there's conflict going on? I would argue.
A whole bunch of great questions, and sadly, we can only conjecture on what the answers are.
I think that she's both. She's sad for her friend Luann, but she's also just sad because she's having to. Because again, conflict in the town hall. She's one of like 100. There's only like 8 people in this room, so she is basically trying to put herself in the background. If there was somebody that she could stand directly behind, she would do that instead. But that would be too much moving. So this is the closest she can get to not being a part of things.
Yeah, without actually standing up and walking away, which would be a bigger statement than she would really want to make.
Yeah, the attention would turn to her then. Lisa coming in just instantly ready with that song really makes me laugh as well. And Maude sort of looks internally annoyed when Marge suggests that Lisa come in and sing. Like she looks like she's, "Oh, here we go," which Kirk expresses. But good use of Lisa. Lisa doesn't get many chances to just be the funny one. And Homer saying that's a door. Again, just continuing his great scene. One of his finest hours.
All in all, that is only a few minutes of screen time, but is splendid.
I also want to note now, I only sort of thought about this recently, but Ned and Maude and Tim and Helen, they're both Harry Shearer and Maggie Roswell. So it's fun to see how they are completely different with the relationships and the way they speak to each other. But it's the same 2 people. I thought Kirk and Luann as well, but Kirk is Azaria.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is too bad. I don't think we saw a lot of this interaction between the 2 or 3 couples, and what happens when, let's imagine if that had been, the core of the show, where you had these 3 or 4 couples interacting. That would have been a very interesting and different dynamic.
I like stuff like this when they do, I don't know, not as necessarily focused on the kids or just on Homer or Marge. Like Homer and Marge as a couple doing coupley things. Because again, you get to see some of the other couples then. Clancy and Sarah didn't make the list. That's pretty much the only couple I can think of. Because again, there aren't that many. That's why they've settled on Kirk and Luana, I think. Skinner and Edna aren't together at this point.
Martin's popped up a few times.
Comic book guy is years away from meeting Kumiko, no Manjula, so Apu is single. So yeah, there's not a lot of...
His wife, no Betty.
No. Krusty, single. Sideshow Mel has a wife, but, they're not going to be in writing. These 3 couples and then Sideshow Mel and his wife, I would have enjoyed very much, but it would have been a weird thing to do.
A weird dynamic.
So they are all traipsing out of Homer's house. Homer saying, "Good night, thanks for coming." And Maude's got her purple Vampirella dress on, and she's holding Todd's hand as they leave. So the kids are there after all. We didn't see them other than Lisa last time. The Hibberts have 2 kids who we don't hear very much about. And nobody, including Maude, says thanks or goodbye to Homer. Kids seem happy. Everyone else seems pretty disgruntled.
Yeah, everybody looks as sad as Maude did last time now. And it's just because of the atmosphere, which was sort of Margie's fear, how the evening could go. So Margie's fear has been realised. The kids were knocking about. They just weren't in any of the clips we looked at.
Okay.
But, yeah, there's not a lot to say, really. It's just sort of the end of that scene.
My only question was, why would Maude be so rude, even though all that bad stuff went down? Homer didn't do it. And I know she's getting in with the mood, the swing of the divorce party, but surely she would at the very least have nodded. I say thanks for that slop.
I don't know. I think Ned would definitely, but Maud's less likely to. Ned would be the one who to. Oh, it's strange that he didn't say bye, but Maud's got that cold side to her. She doesn't really care about people, it seems, especially these people.
Pretty much, I think so. All right, moving on sharpish then, because really nothing happened. Is that the only dinner party that we've seen either the Flanders or the Simpsons host?
I think the Simpsons might have had a couple more, but maybe not actually, maybe like book clubs and stuff. But I think this is the only one Ned and Maude go to. The rest of them are like barbecues or parties rather than just a supposedly civilized dinner party. It makes sense that they wouldn't bother trying again after this.
I guess.
In fact, it's likely the next time all of those people are in this house is probably Maud's funeral.
And there's a whole bunch of other ruffians in there. So yeah, it really does feel like they regret shooting themselves in the foot by stealing decades worth of neighborly stories, because essentially without the Flanders family holding it down there, they can't really do those dinner parties because they don't really have another friend group, even though they're not super friendly with the Flanders. It is kind of like they would be the first people they would invite if they were going to have a dinner party. Clip 2. Marge opens the door. She's shocked. Luann is there with Wolfcastle. No, it can't be Wolfcastle. Who is it? Milhouse, the Hibbert, Patty and Selma, Abe and Maud's mum are also there in the Simpsons living room. The Lovejoy with a very cute Helen. Usually she's very pointed, but she's a little cutie face there. Maude looking very streepish and sly with a nice orange cardigan and a little brooch at the top where the top button is, and this kind of wavy line going down her shirt. It's really all in all quite a nice outfit. She looks like she's waving possibly through gritted teeth. And this again, once again, going back to what happened in the 700th episode, which will have happened just a few years before this, just makes everything Maude does to Homer. Although, yeah, of course he doesn't say some bad things, but everything she says and does to him now has been recontextualized as just her being really a not very nice person because he did something which is life-saving and life-changing.
It's a full circle moment, really, isn't it? It's like she's annoyed at the fact that he is going to kill her, because now, at this point, with this new information we have, she has no reason to be this awful to him.
She would basically forgive everything he'd done, given the wonderful act he did in episode 700.
But I agree that in this, she does look weirdly smug, or like her face. There's something going on there.
Something. She's got very good posture, gritting her teeth as she smiles. And Homer is in a tuxedo because he's ready to get remarried.
Yay. Is that the whole clip?
That's the whole clip. So Marge opens the door. She sees all the people there. We got Streepish Maude, nice orange cardigan and brooch. Homer in a tux, ready to get married. But then we cut the clip.
I do believe that you said Maude's mum.
Ka-ching.
So there's a ka-ching from the past. The back half of this episode is very short clips compared to the first half, which was very long. Maude was like all over the place, whereas this, she is sort of dipped into the background again a bit more. She stood alone.
No, not in this. This one.
No,
she's with this one.
Ned.
It pans across, and she stood with Ned, and she's everyone's kind of smiling because I think Marge has just arrived, and she doesn't really know what's happening yet. So we get very quick clip. We get a scan of the room. We get a second or so of Maude standing there smiling, but maybe not smiling. It's hard to see what she's going on. She knows what's happening here to some degree. She knows that Marge and Homer are getting remarried. What do you think she thinks of that?
I think she just likes a wedding, so I think she's on board. But I don't know. I think she probably would see it as a good thing if it's Homer. They're doing it to have like a fresh start. Like nothing's particularly gone wrong, but Homer's saying this is like, I'm going to be a different kind of husband, so I would like to prove that I'm not Kirk.
Don't you think she would be angered by the fact that they're disrespecting the sanctity of marriage by essentially just playing around with it?
Perhaps, but I think that would be overruled. I do think she just likes a wedding.
So her integrity is so compromised that basically she would say, well, yeah, of course they're mocking the institution of marriage and mocking the church because they made these promises to each other till death do them part. But whatever. I like a wedding. I like me a wedding. Even this shoddy living room wedding. Because I don't know if Maude knows that Homer has divorced Marge, because that's the big trick that's coming up in a second. Do you think she knows that?
No, she could just see this as like a vow renewal, which wouldn't be breaking any rules, I don't think.
No, she'd like that, I think.
Yeah. Her outfit's cool. I think we've seen it a couple of times before. This is sort of her formal outfit. This is her Sunday best, not the lime green number we were treated to in the very early days.
No, that was a travesty, and we didn't even see Maude wearing it. We saw Ned mowing the lawn in it. You know, that was going in the bin as soon as that lawn was finished. But we'll get back to that episode when we do Maude Cast Rebooted. Once we finished all the clips and we start again from the beginning. So join us for that.
2025.
Clip 3. Turns out that Homer has divorced Marge. Can you get a divorce without the other person knowing it? I asked myself in my notes. Homer goes on about not wanting a hokey second wedding like those on TV. This one is for real. I want our marriage to be perfect right from the start so we don't end up like Luann and what's his name, Kirk. Marge says, we never will, homie. Maudey stood behind Homer, standing stationary by herself, hands clasped in front of her. She's not talking to anybody. She doesn't have a drink, and she appears to be looking off screen beyond the people. Is she looking at Rod and Todd doing something over there? Anyway, we cut to the back of the room where we see Milhouse, and he's sitting with Kirk, and I thought that was nice that those two chaps were sitting together. We see a classic B-O-the-H shot from Maude. I asked where did Rod and Todd go, because everybody else is in the room except for the children. And Lovejoy is marrying Homer and Marge for the second time, and we end the scene with triumphant horns.
I did notice that she blinks in this, but everybody in that room when Homer, if you look away from Homer while he's talking, everybody sort of looks like that bit at the edge of town in WandaVision where she's not really controlling them properly. Like, I think Bernice and Julius are talking to somebody, and the way the mouths move and stuff is very like It just looks like birds tweeting.
Yeah, what's
So
that
more-
called where they do? There's an animation technique where they just do that 4-cell kind of loop, where it just loops that same 4 cells. Like the Hanna-Barbera stuff did it all the time. And they did the corridor thing that they joke around, you know, they run in the corridor. Those kind of cheap-ass animation techniques. But Maude doesn't even get someone to talk to. They're just like, we need somebody in the middle. Let's just have Maude stood there motionless. That's what she does best. No drink, no chat.
No. The Oracle. She's just watching over, maintaining the goodness of the room.
Paying medium
I
attention.
think she's content.
Do you think she would be content on her own at a party?
Yes. Dependent on the party. Like, I don't think there's anybody here she particularly wants to speak to. I imagine, yeah, she's probably seen enough of Helen. Luann's busy with her new boyfriend. I think he's called Pyro. He's like a gladiator-style fighter.
Ah, okay.
So I don't think she's interested in speaking to them. Her best bet would probably be one of the old people, like Margie's mum, but they wouldn't get on very well. And Grandpa's sort of crazy. She would rather be just on her own.
Yeah, I think so. I think she'd be quite happy there, just, you know, enjoying the ambience and really just breathing in all that sweaty Simpsons smell.
Exactly. Rat boy.
Do you think the Flanders would ever retie the knot?
I could see them doing the renewal thing, yes, especially if she came back from the dead. Well, they'd have to remarry, wouldn't they? Because he's married 2 other women already.
So the thing is that the Maude's death, spoiler, is probably one of the only big things not to be retconned or changed. I know we did that thing a while back where we were like, 50 ways they could bring back Maude. Could they? Would they? It's weird, isn't it, to have a show that's so ridiculous as Simpsons. We're like, we can't do this, can't make this change. It would be like Roy, bringing in Roy, or suddenly one of the Simpsons kids goes away to college. What they did with the Cosby Show, right? They did a spin-off, but you have to do that with real people.
Yeah, I don't think it would matter at this point. They've just set the last 2 episodes, like they had Homer as a teenager in the 90s, and then they had Homer delivering Todd Flanders via a YouTube video, and she died before YouTube was popular. So for them to say, oh, we couldn't do that, that would be stupid, is just bollocks at this point.
It would be wild, wouldn't it, if while we were doing this Maudecast, Ian somehow persuaded his buddies to bring back. I know for sure from the reaction that you got on the Instagram platform from a certain Miss Roswell, one person would be very happy. And I bet she gets more than $4,000.
Oh, yeah.
Hope so.
At least 4.5.
So the band is playing. Is it Steve Cropper? I remember this, right? Or is it Donald Duck Dunn? It's one of the Booker T and the MGs.
One of the Doobie Brothers.
Is it one of the Doobie Brothers?
He said, do you like the Doobie Brothers? Because we've got one of them.
Yeah, but I'm going to check now who it is because I know those guys played in those bands, right? So who likes the Doobie Brothers? Because we've got one of them. Maybe they don't tell you which of the Doobie Brothers it is.
No, I believe they just say we've got one of them. And then they start playing Spandau Ballet.
They do. They play the song True. I know this much is true. That's a great song. So they play a loungy version of that. And Maude saunters backwards onto the screen, dancing quite openly and provocatively with her hands on Ned's shoulders.
A sweet moment. This episode, it doesn't feel like I think I said last time, pre-bongo, that when Ned and Maude are affectionate, it's to show up another couple. But in this instance, I think it's just a nice, they wanted to show niceness. There was a point where they were, and they seem to be going back to this now, there were a couple of nice moments with that Maude Homer stuff in 700, and it's nice to see them dancing again. She's having a nice time, it seems. Everything is nice.
Everything is nice, isn't it? So yeah, it's all cool, it's all good. Even that drama earlier of Luann and Kirk, for the moment, has been allayed, and everything's going well. Until
this
go ahead.
This has got to be a couple of weeks to a month after that, at least, after the dinner party.
Yeah, you think so?
So everybody's the dust has settled on that evening, and now we get to see the upside. It's nice that Marge gets this moment of everybody being at the house and having a nice time, at least.
Yeah, finally. Everything seems to be going right until Kirk Van Houten blunders onto the band area, grabs the mic and shouts, I got something I'd like to say. The crowd all kind of mumbles. Hey, would you guys do a favor for a guy in love? And he hands a piece of paper to the band leader, who says, sure, that's why we're here. And Maud and Ned have continued dancing even though the music stopped and now they're talking. Kirk shouts, hi, everybody, and hit it. Kirk is smiling and nodding, and the band launch into a smooth sounds, and we cut to a smiling Maud. She knows what's going to happen. Her hands are on Neddy's shoulders, and she's doubling down on love. They all turn to Luann. She stops. Kirk begins to sing.
Could you lend me a jar of love? Hurting hearts need some healing. Take my hand with your glove of love. Could I borrow a feeling? Could you lend me a jar of love? Hurting hearts need some healing. Take my hand with your glove of love.
Can I borrow a feeling? Could you lend me a jar of love? What a brilliant song, which you may have already heard at the beginning of this episode. Hope you enjoyed my cover version of that song.
Fantastic.
Kirk goes out to Marge and Homer, and then he passes Maud, and she's smiling now with a cute, soft face that whatever pain, whatever frustration earlier has subsided, and now she's going with the flow. Maybe she's had a little bit of that cider that we think she likes. Hurting hearts need some healing. Take my hand with your glove of love. He's walking over and he heads over to Luann. We cut. We'll never know.
Intense. I'm going to go back on what I said 2 weeks ago about, I am technically still right. I just forgot the band, but when he starts singing, you can just see Kirk and then like the corner of Maud's hair and the band.
Oh yeah, I was going to call you on that because you made me guess who the only two people were that you could see, and that did not transpire in those clips.
No, it did not. But the only two regular Simpsons characters. And then, he walks past Maud first and she looks politely smiling. She probably thinks this song's garbage.
So the big question here is, what is Maud making of all this unfolding in front of her? Because she was expecting more niceness, but surely she wasn't naive enough to think that Luann would turn away from Nitro or whatever his name is.
No, I think now that the dust has settled, Maud's probably, happy that Luann is free of Kirk. Like, she's probably more supportive of Luann being happy. Maud's super Christian, but I think she would make exceptions if it was people that ultimately, if she likes someone, that's the main goal, I would say, for Maud. So she can have her own little internal judgments. Like, she probably doesn't like that Luann's putting it out there so quickly, but she still likes Luann, so she reserves those judgments. And I think she's just kind of smiling at her politeness because she probably pities Kirk for I don't think she dislikes Kirk the way she dislikes Homer. She probably just pities Kirk.
She probably doesn't know Kirk that well. I mean, but she'll have seen him around church and known him for several years and things like that. Maybe she's some pity, but there's judgment in there as well. He brought it on himself with his lack of love, his lack of empathy, his sarcasm, his darkness. Maybe she thinks they deserve each other, those two ruffians. But, also, do you think somewhere deep down when he made a fool of himself and sang this song, do you think somewhere deep down she mocked him and laughed at that?
I don't think so. I think it is all genuine pity. I think there would be because I don't know, she doesn't tend to laugh at people on her own. I think it would be more of that smug, I'm better than you, so I feel sorry for you, so there's nothing to laugh about, sort of high and mighty.
Arrogant, what's the word? Condescending. And other words like that.
Patronizing.
Aloof.
Whimsical. That's not right, but
that's not
it's
right.
a good word.
Whimsical is a great word, but whimsy. Maud is not one given to whimsy, unfortunately. Those two monkeys we spoke to earlier, they sounded whimsical.
Yeah, certainly did. Weak and whimsical.
Maud, not so much.
No, But to summarise overall, it's been a nice detour into Maude and Ned as a couple and how they reflect against the other couples in Springfield. And this deep dive over 2 episodes was worth it, I think, to analyse Maude's feelings on love and marriage.
Yeah, double down on the love. I think Maude, she's happy. She's content with what she's got there. She doesn't ever want that to go away. Well, that's too bad. Too bad. I know. Well, let's not dwell on the many revelations of 700. Let's wait until Maudecast episode 100, probably, when we get to that 700 episode. Who knows, by that point they might have added 20 or 30 more Maude episodes, seeing as they now seem to be bitterly filled with regret at the many, many beautiful episodes that they could have had instead of scraping into, and here's Lady Gaga.
Exactly.
They could have avoided the Gaga travesty, lowest rated episode ever, had they just kept that dynamic.
Yes, if Maude hadn't have died, this show would not have gone the way it did. Marge probably wouldn't have gone to prison 3 or 4 times.
I don't know about that, to be honest. He'd already gone to prison at least once because of Maude. Maybe it forced them not to rely on that lazy ass next door neighbour kind of trope too much.
It did. It just forced them to find other lazy ass ways around it. There is an episode, like season 13 or something, where they're on about something that they've done before, basically, and then Smithers bursts into the room and shouts, "Maggie shot Mr. Burns again."
So at least it's that self-referential nonsense.
They at least have fun with it. Well, for a while they did.
Do you want to wrap that up, or are we done here for today?
I think we're done. I think covered all bases.
Yeah, it was a good long trek. We had some technical issues earlier that the people don't need to know about.
Following along the season 8 episode 7, Lisa's date with density, written by Mike Scully, edited by Susie Dieter. Originally date December 5th.
Lisa's date with dentistry. The Simpsons' bedroom. Homer and Marge are sleeping. Across the way we see the Flanders room silhouetted. The phone rings. We see the shadows of Ned sit up and answer. "Howdly doodly," he says sleepily. Homer's voice comes out of the phone. "Greetings, friend. Do you wish to look?" Ned goes, "Oh," and slams down the phone. It was that darn recording again. Maud's silhouette sits up with its broccoli hair. "Of course it was, Ned. It's been calling all night," she says. "Just unplug the phone," she says, somewhat tersely, before lying back down. Ned ignores her and lies back down, switches off the light, and immediately the phone rings again. "Howdy doodly," he says. "Greetings, friend." Now, Ned slams down the phone, ka-ching, slams down the phone, and says, "Dang." Cut to the Flanders bedroom. Lights on. Neddy in turquoise pajamas. Maude in a pale blue frilly button-up. She turns to him and gestures. "I told you to unplug the phone." "But it could be my mother," says Ned. Maude is very irritated. The phone rings again. "Howdly doodly." "Greetings, friend," says Homer's voice again. "Shoot," says Ned. Maude has tried to lie down and close her eyes. She's irritated. She sits up, enraged that it is Ned. Ned looks stunned as Maude turns and says, "If you don't unplug that phone now, you're sleeping on the lawn." There is pointing in all directions. Homer helpfully then shows up from his window across and starts screaming at them. "Will you two shut up? People are trying to sleep." Now Maude is stunned, but she won't take that, surely.
Seems like she does. I don't know if they know that it's Homer on the phone as well. Because it's like an automated message. I'm assuming they can just recognize the voice, but they don't seem to acknowledge it. Like, Maude doesn't. She's like, "Hang on a minute, we're only up because of you, you fat jackass."
See, that would be the obvious thing. It's obvious that it is Homer. What's the phone call about?
He's doing like a scam. It's called Happy Dude, and he basically phones. It's like automated to phone every phone in Springfield, and he says if you pay $1, you are guaranteed eternal happiness, basically.
One Mogola.
And then he gets caught by the police and has to shut it down, so he starts a second one called Sorry Dude, in which he asks people to also send him $1. I think it's called Density as well, which I didn't realise for quite a long time. I thought it was Lisa's date with Destiny, but it's Density, referring to Nelson.
Oh, because he's stupid.
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
But this is unconnected, and Homer's in the B story trying to scam them, and Maude doesn't address this at any point.
No, this is it for them for this episode. This is just one brief scene in a room that, again, is not their bedroom.
This is the weird one that I wanted to ask about the geography of the house. How often do we see it where Homer can look out of his bedroom window and shout into their bedroom?
It's happened a couple of times where the windows are facing, but sometimes it's Rod and Todd's room, and sometimes it's the spare room. Then we're looking at now, we've got living room, rumpus room, secret church in the rumpus room, Beatles room, panic room, man cave, 2 bedrooms, at least 1 bathroom with a peek hole, and the dining room. So we're talking at least 10 rooms in this house already. And this bedroom is not their bedroom or Rod and Todd's bedroom, so this is another room.
How do you know this is not their room?
Geographically, the room is looking at the front of the house. I think it's top left. You see them at that window enough times, I think, or the outside. Then we've seen it on the bottom floor before as well, though, with Stampy.
With the elephant, yeah.
But this one is a strange one. It's obviously just necessary for the scene. But this is one of the better short ones that she's in this season. And in comparison to the Bongo cast, this is one of the only times we've seen them get like this with each other in the show. And it was way more amped up than this in the Bongo cast. Maude's the Ned here.
Well, to be fair, Ned is incredibly irritating in the fact that he won't stop answering the phone, but
Yeah.
he doesn't fight back. He just sits there and takes it, knowing that he's pretty much completely in the wrong. Is she reasonable? Is this in character for Maude?
Yeah, this is that Maude that we don't really see, that she would say if she went into Big Brother and tried to hide who she was. This is the side that would eventually start coming out when she's like tired and cranky. The fact that she wants him to sleep on the lawn is very weird. Like, she doesn't even say you'll be sleeping on the couch or like downstairs, you'll be sleeping on the lawn.
She wants to throw a bit of an ultimatum at him so that he really makes his decision, right?
True, but if he doesn't unplug the phone, that means he has to sleep on the lawn, which means that she would then have to sleep in the house alone with the phone still plugged in.
She would then unplug the phone herself.
You'd assume so, but Ned's options are basically, unplug the phone and stay inside, or leave the phone plugged in and leave the house.
So can you conjecture as to what did happen after Homer shouted at them? Yeah, what transpired?
I think that probably brought them together a little bit. They were both probably irritated at Homer then. Ned less so, because Ned's very forgiving. But I don't think he slept on the lawn. I think he probably did just unplug the phone.
I think he probably unplugged the phone, and then the Simpsons, had they followed that, would then showed something horrific happening to his mother.
Yeah.
Although
That's what I would
Family Guy, they would have cut away to. Or Father Ted does this as well. There's the sketch in Father Ted where he keeps phoning the other priest when he's in the middle of some incredibly dramatic thing. There's one where I think he's doing a house of cards or something, and they phones him and it knocks it down, and he doesn't answer, or he just misses it, and they says, "Oh, he must be out." But every time something ridiculous has happened on the other end of the line.
I could see it happening in later Simpsons, definitely. That they would cut to Mona or Capri Flanders drowning or something, or in a burning building.
Let's talk another big year, season 8, episode 8, Hurricane Eddie, written by Steve Young, directed by Bob Anderson, original air date December 29th, 1996. Let's go, girls.
Now we're into Hurricane Neddy. We are outside the Quickie Mart. Marge pulls up and we get a classic BOTH shot for Maude. In the car park there is a crowd. And is that Maude? Tiny Maude stood in front of Krusty next to Kirk. Apu is on the roof. He has a shotgun and a megaphone, and he says, "Stand behind the flaming garbage cans. We'll be letting you into the store 70 people at a time." Kirk shouts, "Let's just beat him up and take his stuff." Maud is looking at Apu, turns to see Kirk, We just get to see her face for a second, and she is not disgusted by this idea. We don't really see how she feels about it because we cut back to Apu, who very calmly says, "No, no, no, don't listen to that man. You all have a chance to be gouged." And Maud turns gleefully to Skinner. She's mouthing some words in happiness.
I like this one because she's a townsperson, not a Flanders. She's interacting with people who are very it's not wild, but it's just, she's a member of the town. She's talking to like Skinner and Krusty, and she stood next to Kirk, and there's no Ned, Rod, or Todd to tie her into that Flanders thing. She's just there as a civilian. So that's fun, and she's again in the mob mood of, she'd have gone along with Kirk in this situation, I think, even though she saw how much of a liability he can be.
Yeah, and Apu came to Ned's fake funeral in the Bongo cast only last week. And Apu showed up to Maison Derriere just a few weeks ago to help out with his Hindu prayers. So they've had a couple of run-ins this week. So I think in the last few weeks. So I think Maud then turning on him and stealing all his stuff. That's not okay.
No, it's not, especially after the whole vote yes on 24 thing as well. The immigration episode that we covered in our season 3. She was very Team Apu then, but he is holding a shotgun at her, and this is sort of more relevant now than probably then with the whole pandemic situation at the start, with people going crazy for toilet roll and stuff, and Apu's handling of it is very apt.
Yeah, there's something with him being on the roof with a shotgun that reminds me of like Dawn of the Dead, right, in the shopping mall. I wonder if that was deliberate. They don't do a zombie kind of reference or parody there at all, do they?
Not in this scene, no, but they have done it twice, and Apu is quite central in one of them.
So, clip 3. Cut to the store interior. People are dashing for the shelves. There is a hurricane on the way. Maud is right in there with Lenny, running for what looks like the sweets counter. A second later, the crowd clears, and Kirk Van Houten again is in there crouching, glasses askew. What part did Maud play in this destruction of Kirk? Cut to people buying Hurricane Cat Chow. Hurricane written on the bag and the word cat crossed out, so it says Hurricane Chow. Edna's getting right in there. Kearney is filling up a gas tank with squishes. And Marge and Lisa at the counter. And I've said, who is this guy? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. He walks like directly across, doesn't he?
It looks like Hugh Laurie.
Yeah, no idea. He might be. I'll have to check this, but do you remember the very early on when some guy jumped up and said Ned Flanders is in trouble?
Yeah.
Is it that guy?
I thought it might be that guy. He's a weird one. He doesn't say or do anything, but he looks pretty cool. And he does look like Hugh Laurie, one of our sponsors. Marge and Lisa at the counter. Who is this guy? We get a classic BOTH shot. Maud's arms seem filled with good stuff. And I wonder just how aggressive she needs to get to fill her arms, because I think she's not averse to a little bit of fisticuffs to get what she needs. Maud is standing motionless. We only see the back of her head. And Lisa sensibly says, let's grab what we can and get out of there. Marge is looking at what is left on the shelf, which is creamed eel, corn nog, and my favourite, wadded beef. I don't know what that is. And Lisa says, this storm is making people crazy.
There is also a woman towards the end of that clip who looks like a Maud that I mistook for Maud the first time until a few seconds later, and then you actually see Maud with her back to us. But there is a woman in that crowd who looks a bit Goodman-y.
Okay.
She's responding again in the way that everybody's responding, but it's not too crazy given that the hurricane's coming for Maud to be overcautious and want to be as prepared as possible. And yeah, I think she would just, smash and grab. She doesn't really care about anybody else. These are the times when it will benefit her. Because you're looking at Marge and Lisa who have got nothing at this point, and Maud's fully stopped. So she's done something right.
Do you think she took weapons? Do you think she put keys between her fingers or something so she could, take people out? Or do you think she just used her bare arms and the pure strength of Maud?
I can see her having a key or a little sharp wind chime.
A sharpened wind chime.
Yes. Kirk Again, I think this was the point I made in the big Kirk and Luann episode, is that now, from this point on, when you see Kirk, he's in some kind of failing situation like this now. They've obviously realised how funny Kirk is, and this is the first example, I think, after that episode where Kirk has something sort of bad happen to him. And yeah, I can see Maude. She's just turned against Apu. I can see her turning against Kirk pretty quickly as well, if needs be.
Yeah, I don't think she's got a lot of love for Kirk after the way he embarrassed himself at their house, just the Simpsons house, just a few weeks back.
I agree. I think that's it for that clip. I don't think there's a lot to cover. She's well prepared. She's well stocked, and nothing can go wrong.
What about Cat Chow? Do you think she's taking any Cat Chow home with her?
No, I think she sees right through that. I think Edna knows as well, but Edna has slightly less dignity.
Kirk is a good choice for a punching bag. Mom, Maggie, and Kirk are the three main punching bags of the town. Would you say that's still the case?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think kid-wise, it's probably Milhouse, to be honest. I think Ralph's too sweet, but Milhouse, you can do what you want. And Uta doesn't have a good time either, to be honest.
Yeah, given Maud's, love of the mob, I wonder where she would draw the line on that with Leia. She clearly had no problem in mocking and attacking Kirk. Do you think she would go all the way down the line into Moleman, into Gil, even into mocking Milhouse? She wouldn't mock Milhouse openly, would she?
Yeah, I think she would. Especially with the crowd around. She wouldn't say if it was just the Flanders family in Milhouse, they wouldn't. But in another situation where she's just a civilian, yeah, not only would she do it, she'd enjoy doing it.
We are in the remains of the Flanders house that has been destroyed by a hurricane. Ned is softly shouting for Maude, Rod, and Todd. His jumper is ripped and his shirt is dishevelled. Todd says, "I'm right here, Daddy." And indeed he is, sitting upside down on a chair in the wreckage reading a book. Then the bathtub, which has been upturned, lifts up, and it is Maude, also with a torn jumper, but the rest of her outfit looks pretty fly. "Oh, Ned, it was terrifying. I thought I was heading for the eternal bliss of paradise. Oh my gosh, look at Todd. Look at Rod," says Todd. "Oh my gosh, look at Rod," says Todd. Rod, it seemed, has been shot through a tree trunk, which has resulted in the flattening of his hair and a headache, but he's a very lucky chap that that's the only thing he suffered after being thrown literally through the trunk of a tree.
This was one of the most prominent references to death. Like, there's two in this scene alone, and obviously it's relevant, it's not out of nowhere, is it? But the fact that she's already talking about death as a positive, like, she's still saying she was scared, but she refers to it as the eternal bliss of paradise. That's already setting up that she's going to be okay when she goes, which is nice. It's rude of her to... Ned shouts all of the names, and then Todd shouts, "I'm here." And he goes over and Maud's like, "Oh, I'm here too."
In her defense, she is inside an upturned bathtub, which might make it difficult to hear.
An upturned bathtub that Todd could have fit in, but it does seem like they've just landed next to each other coincidentally, and they were in different rooms when this happened. Maude was obviously in the bathroom and able to get under the bathtub. Is that a good idea when things are going to be crushing down? Surely it just means you're going to suffocate.
Probably drilled some holes in it.
Probably already some holes in it. Creep. Yeah, Rod clearly has the best genetics in the Flanders family, because if Maude had gone through that tree, all of her would have been broken. And Rod's fine. Rod has a headache from this, and he would have just been dead.
To be honest, it's somewhat it's implausible to me, Nathan, that a child could be shot through the trunk of a tree. Do you think there was already a hole in that tree trunk for some reason, and he was just very, very lucky that he went through that hole?
That's what I was going to say, because it's very cartoonish. Even for this cartoon, it's very like Roadrunner and that nasty coyote that wanted to eat him.
Slapstick, and it looks like it was done purely so they could do some comedy hair on him.
Is it funny to see Rod like this when Rod's such like a pleasant kid? And I think the answer is yes.
Here's the point I would make there is, this thing arguably is far worse than the thing that actually killed Maude.
Definitely. Because this happened to all four of them for a start. And there's more work to be done. physically following this. This
No, I
is
mean the
destroyed them.
shooting through the tree. I mean the thing where Rod was
Oh.
shot through a tree trunk is far worse and far more painful and life-threatening than Maude falling off. I'll give it to her. It was quite a high stadium.
I say they're both equal, though. Like, if Maude died there, Rod should have died here. But it would have been grimmer, definitely, to have them have killed one of the kids in this episode just to get Ned to where he needs to get.
It would have been an unnecessary act.
Of God.
So Maude, her face is quite flat. Her is dishevelled. She's got sleepy eyes and this kind of like, I don't know what that expression. What is that expression?
Like, zonked.
Done for. Well, sir. Well, everyone's alive, says Ned. That's something to be thankful for. Maude puts her arm around Rod. Homer says, now that kind of attitude ain't going to get your house back. Marge says to Maude, I'm sure the insurance will cover the house. Maude gets all demure and touches her lip and kind of almost giggles. Well, no, and she shrugs her shoulders a little bit embarrassed. Neddy doesn't believe in insurance. He considers it a form of gambling, and then she does a little laugh. Todd looks terrified. Burley moves. He's just doing 1,000-yard stare the whole time. Or is it Rod?
Todd? I don't know. Yeah, she looks like she knows that not having insurance is a stupid idea, just from the way that she delivers the line. Like, she puts all the blame on Ned immediately. So, this was his idea. This has nothing to do with me. Yeah, Ned. Sad line for Ned, isn't it? At least we're all alive. That's something to be thankful for.
Foreshadowing, possibly the third in this clip. The insurance thing, though, do you think, Maude, because she did kind of laugh and giggle like, well, the thing is, like, as if it's some small little kind of thing that's just got in the way, but she knows it's huge. She knows that they've now lost their entire house and all of their money, and she doesn't seem particularly. She seems slightly embarrassed. She must have gone along with this. I mean, she made him sleep on the lawn just a few minutes ago because he wouldn't unplug the phone. Yet she was allowing him to go without any insurance whatsoever.
There is the possibility that she has insurance, and she just lets him believe that they don't have it. That seems to me more in line with Maude, in that she would be like, there's no chance we're not having insurance, but I don't want to make Ned feel unheard or not believed, so I will just secretly. She'll probably got loads of insurance papers in that ice cream room.
I imagine so. I imagine she's been funneling a little bit of their money each month into some private insurance that he doesn't know about, and I'm not sure what happens when they get their house back. Obviously, by the end of the episode, the house comes back. Some kind of fundraising in the town, if I remember rightly. How it works?
Yes, we will come up to it. Don't worry.
Oh, so this isn't the end of Maude's appearance in this episode?
No, this is merely the beginning of this Maude journey. She is the rock that holds the Flanders family together for at least 2 seasons.
I see. So the next couple of episodes are going to be based on this episode.
The next one.
So Ned says, it's funny, the only thing that survived the hurricane were the family tombstones. They're all we have left. And they do have 4 tombstones, one for every member of the family. And Ned's ripped outfit is very funny. His sock is showing and everything's all torn up. Homer waves and says, well, call us if you need anything, and heads off, leaving them stood in the garden next to the tombstones and the destroyed house.
Homer being great again. Homer being like he was with Kirk, just oblivious. Like, he's so happy when he delivers that line. Like, he really doesn't think that much has gone wrong here, I don't think. Like, I don't think he's sort of taken any joy in Flanders being in such a bad situation. I think he just honestly doesn't think it's that bad. Again, Homer deals with this kind of stuff on a daily basis, but when it's Homer, things are reset super quick and easily. And when it's Ned, they're either changed permanently or it's a struggle to get back to where he was. He's sort of the antithesis of a one-episode story. Things happen to him that, even if they are reset, like things are reset by the end of this episode, but he goes through a lot of trauma to get there. Tombstones we've talked about before, but yeah, I'm going to listen to the commentary again soon and add some more to the Maude commentary list, because I wonder if at this point they knew that Maude, because they've still got 3 years yet, so I don't think they will have known at this point that they were going to kill Maude. So I think it is just a weird coincidence. Unless this seems like the time where she would have been saying, I'm doing a lot here. So maybe they're, I don't know, testing the waters, giving Roswell a couple of hints, seeing if she pulls back.
Do you think that she's the character who Roswell has most lines for in these episodes?
No, I'd say Maude was her most prominent Simpsons character in terms of being recognised. I'd say Maude, just because of being killed. That's why people know who Maude is. When you talk about The Simpsons, if you say Maude, it's like, oh, is that Ned's wife who died? So she's got that going for her. So I think she is the most well-known. But I'd say Helen, just purely for the fact that there's 20 seasons of Helen and Luann being alive, means they were both, obviously, I think, speak a lot more than Maude. Even Luann in that episode a few weeks ago spoke more and was more sort of central than Maude. But these days now, when they use Maude, it's not for one line, it's for the stuff we've seen where she'll get, you know, a good couple of scenes, whereas Helen and Luann will still come in and say maybe like 1 or 2 lines. Helen does speak a lot, to be honest. I noticed that.
Yeah. So it's weird that I don't think they're setting it up to get rid of Maude and giving her some hints, but maybe death does surround her at every turn.
It's just sort of everywhere. It's all over the place. And yeah, I do feel bad for the family here. I sort of feel worse for them, or you're made to feel more emotional for them, especially Ned in these next couple of scenes than when Maude actually dies. They spend a lot of time on Ned's crisis and his sort of, you know, questioning, why would God do this?
Well, we'll leave it till the next episode, but I hope that Maude also gets a chance to question why God would do this, because her faith is just as strong, and it's her house too.
Now, Maude is the one who knocks. Maude is the one who keeps Ned. She's the optimistic one, is what I will say. And you can sort of see it with her attitude here in this scene, in that Ned's deflated, but Maude's still trying to be personable, you know, giggling when she speaks to Marge. She's not completely, if anything, you'd expect her to shut down and stare into the middle distance and say nothing, but she's just flipped our entire notion on its head, and she's the one in this scene explaining things and keeping things running.
Yeah, she seems to be quiet in quiet times, but in times of crisis, she does seem to step up.
She's good. She can be relied on, I would say. I would like her around for comfort in a crisis, providing that she turns up in the right mood.
C&C, providing she turns up at all and she doesn't leave after a couple of minutes.
And die.
Or die. So, yes, following on, she's a very supportive lady in these things. Maude and Ned are in the rescue center, but it seems like the only people affected by this hurricane were the Flanders family. So they are sat there, and Ned is sat glumly with his chin on his hands, and Maude has his arms around him. Their clothes are ripped. Maude is a bit glum, but you can see she's kind of trying to keep her head up a little bit. The boys come in, and Rod says, well, Rod or Todd, we can't say, we got some new clothes from the donation bin. Reveal that Todd has a Butthole Surfers t-shirt on and says, look, Mummy, I'm a surfer. And he says, with his eyes wide. Maude is not so happy about this, and she's kind of glumly looking now. And Ned is like super down in the dumps. As Rod then steps in and says, look, Mummy, Todd is stupid, because he's wearing a t-shirt that says, I'm with stupid, with the hand pointing to it. Todd is stupid, and I'm with him. And he steps over to Maude and points to her and says, now Mummy's stupid, ha, ha, ha. And Maude is not impressed with this. Ned, looking very tired, and says, looking good, Roddy. And he sighs and... you're looking good. Maude begins to get a bit more chipper, and she says, Neddy, I know this has been a terrible day. Puts her hands on his knees, super supportive. By golly, she does the old punch sideways. By golly, first thing tomorrow, we're going to open up the leftorium, and before you know it, we'll be back on our feet. And she's trying to be strong. Cut to TV with Kent Brockman on it. Down here at Springfield Mall, hurricane rage-filled mob has turned on the leftorium, and we see the leftorium has been smashed to smithereens.
A flying start for Ned. The first time you see them, like when it's zooming in, it's quite a good faraway Maude. In terms of the faraway Maudes that we've seen, this one's pretty cohesive. So kudos. She also looks, just body language, very supportive. Like she is the rock of the Flanders family in this scene. She's the one keeping, well, she's not doing a very good job, really, trying to keep Ned somewhat, just like placid at least, not as sad as all the monkeys that we employ, and dolphins, and zebras, all of the animals.
The dogs are quite happy.
Yeah, space dogs.
Space dogs.
I don't think Rod and Todd are usually this oblivious to what's going on. Like usually when Ned and Maude are sad, Rod and Todd are also sad or scared, but they're acting very like Ralph here. Like they were in that house when it came crumbling down. Rod just been fired through a tree, and they're both just like, look at these awesome t-shirts. They couldn't show that t-shirt properly either. It's cut off, so they couldn't get away with saying butthole.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so the whole scene, you don't see the t-shirt fully. The leftorium thing feels like a step too far. Like we're just taking joy out of Ned's pain at this point. It's similar to when he opened the leftorium with the chicken bone. This is probably the first time since then that things have not only gone wrong but continue to escalate further. Like not only is there a hurricane, but now his business has been completely destroyed.
Actually mirrors that episode somewhat as well in the richest man in town thing at the end, right? It's
Yes, that's true.
Life kind of thing. But also best album title, Her Way to Stephen. Got to be one of the greatest album titles of all time.
That is good. She says by golly, which is very Nedish. That seems in character, and I liked it.
She's mirroring him and being very supportive. This is as supportive as we've seen Maude. She's always been there for him, but I don't think she's ever had to step up to this degree before.
Do you think there's an ulterior motive? I kind of think she's somewhat enjoying this situation because it's allowing her to control them all and be the most powerful one of the four at this point. She doesn't really use that power that much, but in this situation now, like Ned needs her and the kids need her, so there's something that I think she enjoys about this.
I think that's secondary. I'd like to think that Maude is genuinely loves Neddy and the peeps and the boys, and she genuinely wants them to feel better, but I also think, yes, underneath it she's realized that the tables have turned in her direction. And if your theory about her having secret insurance and so on is true, then she's ahead of the curve because she knows that this is all going to get sorted.
The leftorium thing might be a blessing in disguise as well, because if they don't have house insurance, like legally they must have business insurance, surely. So the leftorium will be covered, I imagine, regardless of what Ned thinks. I don't think he'd get around that.
I think so. And all of those people are actually on TV breaking into the store, so there's a very good chance that there's going to be some repercussions for those people. One of them looks a bit like Frank Grimy Grimes.
Nice. There is the next thing Kent Brockman says, I think, is he gives somebody directions to where something in the store is, like one of the looters.
I think this is a delightful scene that lets us not only mock the Flanders. This must be the only scene where a child actually gets away with calling his mum stupid.
Yeah, especially Rod. Like, that's Todd behaviour all over. She probably lets it slide because he's been shot through a tree, but I'm surprised she didn't smack a bitch.
Well, one would hope that she doesn't do that. I am a member of a book club, and we're looking at a book called The Danish Guide to Parenting, and they come down pretty heavily at anti-smacking, that kind of stuff. Where's Maude stand on that? I can't remember if we've talked about this before, but does she favour the spanked bottom or the clip around the ear roll, or is she more progressive than that?
I don't think it's necessarily progressive. I just don't think she has it in her. She's not got a lot of Alf Garnett in her.
She's minimal Garnett.
Yeah, add that to the intro song.
Minimal Garnett, yes. For all of our non-middle-aged British listeners out there, do your bleeding homework. That's all I can say.
Yes. What's the American one called? Archie.
Archie Bunker?
That's it. Archie Comics.
Oh, Archie Comics.
Sarcasm.
Okay. Archie Bunker,
Dry.
who we don't know about, but he was in All in the Family, wasn't he? So if you're an American, that's the same thing, really.
Yeah, but no, I don't think she's a smacker.
The characters and moods set by All in the Family left a big mark on television history, including these 7 spin-offs. Maude, 1972
Wow.
to 1978. In 1984. So that was a big show. Big show.
And it quite possibly actually birthed the name Maude for our Maude.
Possibly. Clip 2. It's
Yes.
a short one. We got an aerial view. The family's all in bed, sleeping in single beds, as one would expect in a refuge centre. No hanky-panky. Maude is in her own bed and she's fast asleep, tucked up. And Rod and Todd are obviously asleep as well. And Ned is lying there on top of the blankets, looking up at the ceiling. He can't sleep. He rolls over, he sits up, bypasses the family, and he seems to head for church. It's glum times.
It certainly is. I really like this scene in general and the Ned stuff that follows it. I think it's very one of the more. The Simpsons are not really going for a joke in any way. They're just letting Ned sort of experience. Like, we've done all the funny stuff now. Rod's been shot through a tree. Now let's see how Ned's actually coping. And I think they try to emulate that a little bit in the Maude death spoilers episode. There's a bit like the musical cues and the sort of blue night lighting, and even like the facing each other in bed sort of thing is referenced again. Like he turns to like the empty bed and stuff. She's sound asleep, as are Rod and Todd. It's almost like they know they're in a sitcom style situation where the house will just be back, so there's no reason to be this stressed. Because Ned can't sleep at all, but it's also Maude's house and Maude's children's house. And she's fine. She's sound asleep, and she also sleeps exactly how I sleep.
How is that?
Like on her side with like her arm up.
I sleep on the side. But the thing is that you have to sleep facing the door. Are you a door facer?
Yes.
You got to sleep facing the door because danger versus comfort. And
Yes.
in that situation, in that room where Maude was, I don't know which way I'd sleep.
Now, there seems to be several doors, but it's like they're in the left corner of the room, and she's facing the closest door to her. And then, it's quite an empty room, like a long room before you get to the other side. So
Yeah,
that seems correct.
but if there's someone in between you and the door, then that means that you can face a different door.
True, or she's just going to use Ned as a buffer.
Well, that's the thing. But the thing is, I think she's too far apart from Ned for him to actually function as a buffer. And so I think you're right that she should be facing that door. But then she's left her whole flank open from the other side of that big room. So to be honest, it would be a very tricky decision for me. I don't think I'd sleep well.
No, and you can't sleep facing up.
No.
Then you'll just like Hendrix.
Well, you might choke to death on your vomit, but also it's just not a very comfortable. It's the back sleeping. It's just not a very comfortable thing in my book.
Agreed. Maude would disagree because she's been sleeping on her back for about 22 years now.
Is Maude a back sleeper?
She's dead.
Oh, 6 feet under. I get you. Marge comes in to the refuge centre and the family is sat pretty glumly. Ned, Maude, she says, you've got to go back to your house. The boys seem to be chowing down on something. I couldn't tell what it is. Is it a candy? Is it some kind of nut bar?
I think it's sandwiches.
Oh, is it sandwiches? Maude is looking ducky. Marge says something incredible has happened. Maude is smiling. Maude has joy on her face as she realizes that Marge is saying that something incredible has happened. Oh my. And Ned says, this is a great line, what happened now? Did the rubble burn down? They all run for the door and into a car, and then the car pulls up and we see Maude and Ned with a reflection up against their face. And Maude's face is like an upside down triangle with those big, sad, round, almondy shaped eyes. Oh, they built our house. Maude's hand is clasped to her bosom once again and moving towards her face as the boys with wide-eyed disbelief, and Ned rubs his eyes. It's a miracle. Marge says, I started making some calls last night, and before you know it, practically all of Springfield offered to help. Hibbert, Hardhat, Krusty, Skinner, Homer.
Lovely. Fun scene. Great Maude shot when they're driving in the car to the house with the reflections and stuff. That's a very fun they seem to be getting creative with not just doing basic animation. Well, they always sort of have, haven't they? Like they'll find like a fun way to frame something. There's a good one with Ned that we'll come to in the Vegas episode in about 9 months' time, when he just walked across the room past like a glass of water and you see him like the reflection go through the water. And this reminded me of that. At the start, she's just holding his hand and staring at the floor. Like there's nothing going on. I wrote, where is her mind? And then do you think she has shame at the joy of the hurricane? Because we all know about the joy of shame and the shame of joy, which we've not really touched on her actually feeling. So this is one of those times that could be happening where she's feeling ashamed that she had joy.
Do you think that this is what we're seeing here? The joy that she feels from the shame, but shame not being like bad things, shame being that she's ashamed of what she did. She didn't have a part in this though, did she?
No, vice versa. I think she's now ashamed of the joy she felt of being able to take control of the situation because of the hurricane. So now she's feeling guilty. Either that or, it was the end of the day for that nice Korean person who was doing the animation.
You reckon they just got a little bit tired and got a bit sloppy?
Possibly. They didn't give the focus needed to Maude. But yeah, again, Rod and Todd, they don't look particularly happy here, but they look happier than Ned and Maude. Ned's line is very Kirk or like George Costanza again. I think the rubble burned down. It couldn't be more sarcastic for Ned, and this is the first glimpse that he's about to absolutely lose his mind. Really, big happy eyes. Oh, and also she's very. It makes more sense for Rod and Todd, but Maude's very trusting on Marge's word that something good has happened to say she doesn't like Marge. Do you think it's the word miracle that sold it to her?
Possibly. I mean, it would have been funny had Marge pulled them outside of the house and it was like and there was like a particularly large snail was eating a leaf or something.
Just something even worse had happened, like the fences had all been stolen.
A sinkhole had opened up underneath the foundations of the house and they'd fallen into the mole man's cavern.
Or people had just started using it as a public defecation site.
A defecation party, if you will.
Yes. My last note about that is we see a yellow Bernice Hibbert in the background.
Interesting. Clip 4?
Yes, last thing is that the way she says house is particularly North Dakotan.
Yeah, I can't do the accent, but she's doubling down on it. How would she say it?
It wasn't over the top. It wasn't like, because there's a bit of a Canadian sound to it, isn't there? Like,
yeah.
The only thing it's always like no or go, like house would be Canadian, but like she says like house.
Would you say her depiction of Maud is nuanced?
I'd say at this point as well, considering she's doing the voice so frequently, she's got it down to a T. Whereas when we've seen her recently, the voice is more sporadic. Like sometimes she'll slip into Helen kind of sounding, etc., or just sort of like Roswell sounding. But at this point, she's got the pitch and the tone and the accent for Maud are worthy of more than $4,000.
Easily worth every penny. Maggie, we love you.
I do.
Ned says, if any of you need a favor, just look for the happiest man in Springfield. And we see Maude, duck, classic side of duck face, arms round Ned. The whole town is there. The house has been rebuilt identically. So well done from the outside. Camera spins to a dude in braces because Ned has just said, look for the happiest man in Springfield. And we go to a man who is laughing and has this bow tie on and braces and shades. Not me, my friend, but thanks for looking. And he's overjoyed.
The people who were willing to help Maude and Ned by proxy in that crowd I spotted were Helen Lovejoy, Mrs. Glick, the Hibberts, Skinner, Krusty, Apu, Kirk, Barney, the Princes, Ruth Powers, Selma, Eddie and Lou, Jasper, Luann, Sideshow Mel, Miss Hoover, Sarah Wiggum, and Carl were the ones I spotted.
That makes a lot of sense.
I know Maude, though, because Ned calls him a ugly, hate-filled man, and Mo says, I may be ugly and hate-filled, but what was the last thing you said?
But I think that's a good crew. I'm happy that Sarah Wiggum was there. I'm happy that Ruth Powers was there. That makes a lot of sense to me. So well done, Ian, over there in the bushes, for listening carefully. then going back in time and changing the animation so it retroactively fits in with the Maude cast. So here's the last thing I was going to say is that Maude, Ducky Maude, turns to Ned, who would put her arms around him, and then Ned walks over to the house, walks directly into the front door of the house without attempting to open it, and then kicks it open. And as he does, everyone cheers for joy, and Maude throws her arms up in the air like in a full-on, yeah! Probably the most excited and animated I've ever seen her.
Yeah, outside of the bongo cast, this is the most arm throwing she's done. But she doesn't go in. Ned and Rod and Todd, you see them all in the house exploring, and you don't. Well, the next time we see Maude is the next time that we see Maude in the next clip, and there's a lot that's happened in that time, and she's just nowhere. Yeah, I don't know where she goes for the next 10 minutes, but she has no interest in checking out this house from the looks of things.
Oh, it's just the same as the last one. Yeah.
Probably knows that this bunch of idiots has built it, so it's not going to be worth. She probably knows if I go in there, I'm going to die when it collapses.
Yeah, I imagine she's not going to fair. But she lets the kids go in. She said, "Oh, boys, just wait over here for a minute."
Maybe she knows at this point that she's the only one in any real peril.
She's foreseen the future. I mean, maybe she got a flash that said, you know, the boys will be safe no matter what, but you, Maude, death is on the horizon, so be careful.
And also, Rod got shot through a tree.
Rod did get shot through a tree, and also it's not really being very careful standing on the top of a football stand or a seating stand with no back to it. So
yeah, just
really
casual
risk. So I guess
that's when he completely. It's worth going back and watching that scene after this because he completely loses his mind and just goes off. Again, Maude's she's not in the background. She's not around but he just loses his mind and goes off on about 5 different people.
Yeah, we don't get to see all that stuff, but you know, it's all out there for you. So Ned storms out of the house. It doesn't look like the house has fallen down yet, or has it?
It storms out. He storms out then.
Does he storm out before the house falls down or after?
No, he leaves the house and shuts the door, and him shutting the door causes it to collapse. Maude's nowhere to be seen, and that's why he's storming off after he's had this big rant. He goes up to Homer last and says, "You're the worst person I've ever met," and Homer says, "I got off easy." And then that's when we cut back into this where he's storming off.
Ned angrily storms out of the house, fists clenched. Maude is taken aback as the boy and the boys are too. Neddy, wait, come back. She chases him with her hands high, pointing, reaching for him. Where are you going? She runs to grab for the car door, but Ned has spun away. She stands stunned, arms by side in the street, glaring at Ned. What is that emotion? We got a face forward Todd here.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool. And then we cut to the car where rage-filled Ned, looking very disheveled, has gone into a kind of fugue state with his eyes half closed. He puts the radio on and some cool Hawaiian music plays, and he kind of hums along before driving right through the gates of Calmwood Mental Hospital. Laurie?
I like that. I didn't think of that connection. That could be a story we don't visit. They don't visit. We definitely will.
Oh, we definitely will.
Yeah, her look here in this screenshot you're showing me is like bewildered anger. She almost can't believe that just happened in front of everybody. I don't think she's that concerned about him more than how this now looks. She's like, oh, Christ, are we now the Simpsons? Everybody's looking at us. I feel like Marge running around after and he's just blanked me and got in the car and driven off and left us, didn't even speak to us, didn't even look at us, and he's gone. So maybe Maude, I don't know, maybe Maude's experienced this before because she's not shocked. She is, but she's not it's not like new shock. It's again shock.
It is again shock. I think that's the correct term because I don't think it's more like how do I deal with this?
Yeah.
And kind of stuck between wanting to appear in multiple ways and just not knowing how to deal with it. She wants to look like she's still in control. She wants to look like this isn't such a big deal, but she also needs to show that she's a little bit ashamed of this kind of situation. because everyone's looking at her. At that point, as Ned's driven away, literally everybody in Springfield is watching her stood in the street with the boys.
And I don't think that's what she was. It's sort of a monkey paw, be careful what you wish for thing, because I don't think she wanted this kind of attention. I don't think she ever wanted to be the main character. And again, that's probably why we don't see her. There is one more clip from this episode that we will cover next time. But other than that, I'd say this is the midpoint of this episode, and you don't see her again till the last scene, or Rod or Todd. Like, it's all just about Ned. Like, he doesn't get visited by them. You don't see how they're coping. You don't even see where they're living. And I can't even remember. I think now the house isn't referenced again. I think the house is just back next time. Yeah, I feel bad for her. She's got a lot of balls in the air trying to juggle. Because, yeah, you're right. She wants to. There's a little bit like she calls him Neddy, and the way she says, "Where are you going?" is quite. There's a bit of fear in her voice, but also that thing that she doesn't want to look like it's that big of a deal. Like, she's saying it as if he's just come downstairs in like a wacky coat or something. And she's like, "Neddy, where are you going?" So she's trying to keep everything calm, but it's already way past that point anyway.
Yeah, and I'd like to know where she goes next. Neddy's abandoned her. The house is gone. Does she get on a bus and go back to Springfield Township? Does she move in with Rue Powers for a while? You know, and what is that reconciliation to get Ned back? There's a whole bunch of stuff there. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out a little bit in her diary.
Perhaps.
Any more you want to add to those fine clips before we move on?
No, I think that's good. I think this has been a bold episode for her. She's been both front and centre and completely absent within the same couple of minute long scene.
She is both within the speech marks and outside of them.
Yes. Everything she says matters, regardless of where the camera is.
Ned emerges from the hospital. Classic BOTH shot of Maude, arms outstretched. Homer and the doctor come out, flanking Ned. There's signs of smiling in the crowd. Apu, Flandy is dandy. They have a sign that says Flandy is dandy. Rod and Todd are gleeful. In an unnamed diamond shirt kid is also very gleeful. Face forward Maude is Muppet-esque. Unknown sight, holding next to Helen. Is it the Reverend? Because the sign says Free John Swartzwelder. And nice. Salmon Pink Beard Man, he's there again.
Is he? Excellent. I'm hoping he shows up everywhere now. You know, sort of like that Bad Wolf thing in Doctor Who where it was just all in the background the whole time. I'm hoping this guy is more the Bad Wolf.
I hope so. But when I type in Salmon Pink Beard Man into the internet, I only get Jasper Beardsley. And he is not the beardy man we are looking for.
No, that's a paddling.
So what do you make of this clip then? Maude's up there, she's supporting Neddy as he emerged from the hospital, and lots of support from the town, signs and all that stuff.
I don't think you finished the clip.
I did not. Ned thanks everybody in a shaky voice. He says, "I'm all better now. No more storing up the anger till I explode." It's unconvincing. Another great back of the head shot. If any of you does something I don't like, you're going to hear about it. More waving and cheering. What's Maude thinking about this is what I'm thinking here, because she knows Ned better than that. And the doctor says, "Yes, that's very healthy, Ned." And Ned says, "And if you really tick me off, I'm going to run you down with my car." Malevolent eyes. A first audible gasp sounds like it's from Maude. We cut to the crowd looking dismayed. Maude hand to mouth. Clapping. Nice. It says clapping fade, but I don't know what that means.
Clapping fade. It sounds correct for whatever it means. It seems like all is forgiven now from everybody in town after Ned's complete, going off on everybody. Now everybody seems to be back on Team Ned, which is nice. Ned's usually quite picked upon by others, or he's easy for everybody to get angry at. So it's nice that they all nobody holds a grudge, even Maude. But I think this is surely the show, and she's going to go mad when they're on their own.
You reckon? You reckon she's going to... Because, sure, he's okay, he's feeling better, but he's still got to be on shaky ground. She can't just rage at him the first moment they get together. She's got to realise that might not be for the best.
Very true. But he did, regardless of his emotional status, he did just abandon them without any plan for his wife and kids or any information, really. He just drove away from them, and this was the next time that they saw him. Unless they, of course, visited, but we never saw them visiting him. And we never saw them at the Flanders home. And as we learned from her diary, she's not even in the state anymore. But
No,
here now she's back. And I've noted that she looks dainty and humble, but I do think it's all for show. And Todd's face, he seems pretty happy when Ned says the thing about running you down with his car. Todd's the only one still smiling.
Why do you think that is? Is he not paying attention? Does it not make sense to him? Does he not understand? Or does he fully agree that that's what you should do? Should people tick you off?
Maybe he thought it was a joke, but Todd is very impressionable. So maybe he just thought, this is how you're supposed to, this is what you do if somebody annoys you. So maybe he was just smiling in that Todd way, where his natural face is pleasant, rather than Maude's where it's icy.
Do you think Maude saw Todd smiling, and if so, what would she have made of that?
I don't think she spotted him, but I think she would know with Todd that it was, probably going to lead somewhere bad. So she'd probably not let him get a driver's license when the time came. Well, that's what her plan is anyway, but she won't be around. So it won't matter anyway. Either way, she's dead.
She's got a lot on her hands there, though. So she's got two of her boys teetering on the very brink of insanity. I didn't see any evidence of any long-term counselling for the family going on after this traumatic incident. Maybe they just agreed to bury it deep down inside and never mention it again.
Seems that way, because after this, Ned is more flippant, but he's never like this again, I don't think. Jesus Christ. The biggest bee in the world.
You got a big bee in your house?
It's gone now.
Do you have anything more to add to Hurricane Neddy? It was a traumatic experience for everybody that seems to have quickly been brushed under the carpet.
Yeah, no, it seemed like one of those substantial life moments, but everything naturally just returns to normal after this. They all sort of reset from those themes, from the looks of things, but we know that Maude carries this trauma with her. And we know that she doesn't forget.
She definitely doesn't forget.
So she's going to be keeping a close eye on everything, I would say. Except for in this next episode when she is completely absent of Ned, Rod and Todd.
Well, she's still got to live her own life, right?
This is a real biggie. Season 8 is true peak. Maude Flanders, isn't it? I've been Luna Sizemore, and please join me and whoever the heck else shows up for Season 8 Part 2.